into an effective X-ray vision. In any case, it was undeniably real. Yet how could this be? He had just dismissed the possibility of being ensnared by an illusion, and now he was confronted with this startling tableau. Tian Lu, once more, he urged. Huh. The soul's roar once more. The piercing shriek escaped Tian Lu's lips again. Although Lu Yu had braced himself, the sound reverberated through him, evoking an overwhelming sensation as if his soul were on the verge of departing his body. He fought against the pain, his gaze fixed intently upon the ice surface. Indeed, the earlier vision materialized once more, now even clearer than before. Chen Zhu lay beneath the ice, seemingly aware of the soul's roar. Covering his ears as he strained to look in Lu Yu's direction, their eyes met, each reflecting mutual astonishment. This was not an illusion, it was a tangible reality. That person was indeed Chen Zhu. But why was he beneath the ice? Was that the location of the next layer? How could the soul's roar reveal the position of the layer below? As the roar subsided, the distorted image reverted to the appearance of the ice layer. Lu Yu inhaled deeply. Being so close to the soul's roar had left him feeling quite unwell. Chapter 354. Fracture. Lu Yu lay upon the ice, gasping for breath. Though he yearned to understand the cause of this phenomenon, he could not disregard the condition of his own soul. After resting for several minutes, he finally felt himself nearing recovery, his mind becoming clearer. He sensed that he and the others were ensnared in some unknown environment, not an illusion, but something beyond his comprehension. Nevertheless, this environment could indeed be influenced by the soul's roar. With this in mind, a plan to shatter this environment began to take shape. One soul's roar might not suffice, but surely the power of 50 would do the trick. With a swift gesture, he summoned the other mermaids, all of whom appeared immediately. As with Tian Lu's earlier manifestation, these mermaids, having endured the freezing damage, erupted into a cacophony of shrieks. The invisible waves of sound energy reverberated through the icy cavern. While Lu Yu reclined on the ground, knowing he could not withstand the onslaught of 50 soul roars. Thus, he allowed himself to collapse in advance. As the vibrations of the soul's roar intensified, the surrounding environment seemed to tremble as if the very heavens were collapsing. The ice layer beneath his feet, the cavernous ceiling above, and the ice walls encircling them all began to fracture extensively. The entire icy grotto appeared poised to shatter into countless shards at any moment. Lu Yu, closest to the source of the soul's roar, found himself enduring the most arduous trial. He was acutely aware that being assailed by the anguished wails of 51 souls would be excruciating, yet he never anticipated the sheer intensity of the pain. It felt as though countless daggers were incessantly thrusting into the depths of his soul, only to be swiftly withdrawn, then plunged in once more, subjecting him to a relentless torment. In that moment, he contemplated the finality of suicide, yearning to escape the anguish that besieged him. However, in the next instant, he descended into a numbing state, rendering even the thought of self-destruction impossible to conjure. The continuous tearing of his spirit plunged him into a near-fainting state. And just before losing consciousness entirely, Lu Yu's fingers twitched, summoning all his familiars to safeguard him. After fulfilling this task, Lu Yu succumbed to oblivion. As he slipped into unconsciousness, the fractured environment around him finally crumbled entirely, transforming the world into a tapestry torn asunder, its fragments scattering chaotically. Yet, within this disarray, Lu Yu and his summoned beasts remained unscathed, for they had transcended the shattered canvas, emerging into the realm of reality. Not far off stood the untroubled Chen Zhu and others, who, despite being affected by the wails, had not succumbed to unconsciousness like Lu Yu. Surrounding them were Lu Yu's familiars. Time seemed to lose its significance as Lu Yu, in a daze, opened his eyes. His guardians, the summoned beasts, remained vigilant by his side, while in the distance, Chen Zhu and the others held their hands aloft, motionless. Rising from the ground, Lu Yu heard Chen Zhu call out, "Brother Yu, hurry, please recall your familiars. I can barely hold on." A moment of surprise washed over Lu Yu, swiftly followed by understanding. The command he had given his familiars was to protect him, which unfortunately categorized Chen Zhu and the others as potential threats, necessitating their gesture of peace. Embarrassment surged through Lu Yu as he hastily recalled his familiars, allowing everyone to lower their hands, albeit with lingering, reproachful glances directed at him. Eager to shift the focus, Lu Yu inquired, "How long was I unconscious?" "About 10 minutes, replied the innocent youth, the only one who had not raised her hands during the ordeal. Upon sensing the hostile gaze of the summoned beasts, she had promptly entered a stealth mode, leaving the familiars bewildered. However, she remained immobile, surrounded by the throng of summoned creatures, awaiting Lu Yu's awakening. Thankfully, Lu Yu's fainting spell was brief. Otherwise, the innocent youth had contemplated forcibly rousing him. "Boss, what just transpired?" asked Ru Meng Jiangnan, voicing the collective confusion. They had initially planned to wait for Hua and to seek them out. But as minutes passed without his arrival, they were met with the soul-wrenching cries, followed by the shattering of their world, leading to the present scene. Lu Yu gazed at Hua and Tianxia, who shook his head in response. "I followed the coordinates you provided, yet there was no one there. It is rather peculiar." Lu Yu pondered for a moment before articulating his conjecture. "This frostbone dragon appears to possess a unique ability to ensnare us within a particular environment. This environment resembles the existence of a multiverse. Upon our descent, we entered a third layer, albeit different iterations of it. As he spoke, Lu Yu turned his attention to Chenju. Chenju suddenly comprehended. Thus, I saw you above me, brother Yu. Indeed. It seems this environment can be influenced by the Soul Shriek skill, which is why I summoned all the mermaids and shattered the previous environment with the Soul Shriek. The others listened, grasping the gist of their recent predicament, albeit with a hint of confusion. Brother, is that environment an illusion? The pure-hearted youth ventured a guess. Having witnessed Sun Tianhua's white fox employ illusions, which closely resembled Lu Yu's earlier description, it seems not to be an illusion, Lu Yu replied hesitantly. Various signs suggested it was not merely an illusion, but rather a more advanced phenomenon. That is consciousness. The Frostbone Dragon has pulled you into its realm of consciousness. An ancient voice resonated. Instantly, the group became alert, turning to locate the source of the voice. They beheld a diminutive elder approaching them slowly, exchanging glances. They realized they had not noticed his presence until now. I am Duan Shuqing, the individual you seek. The person we seek? The group looked perplexed, but it was Lu Yu who first reacted. Their initial purpose for coming here was not to confront the Frostbone Dragon, but rather to assist Chenju in transitioning to a battle equipment master. Chapter 355. The Frostbone Dragon. Duan Shuqing stood short yet robust, embodying the quintessential appearance of a dwarf, consistent with Lu Yu's impression of battle equipment masters. Yet, what did he mean by the Frostbone Dragon's realm of consciousness? Could it signify the dragon's second ability? Master Duan, what do you mean by the realm of consciousness? Are you my disciple? No. Then be gone. I only impart knowledge to my disciples. Others are unworthy of my teachings. Lu Yu found himself at a loss for words. This elder's temperament was quite obstinate. Duan Shuqing peered past Lu Yu, scanning the group. Obedient disciples, which of you is my esteemed disciple? Chenju glanced at Lu Yu, and upon receiving a nod, stepped forth from the crowd. Duan Shuqing scrutinized Chenju intently, his expression shifting from anticipation to silence, and then to delight. This transformation left Chenju's own expression fluctuating, uncertain of the elder's intentions. At last, Duan Shuqing stroked his beard with one hand, nodding in satisfaction. When I first laid eyes on you, I thought you were merely a pretty boy. However, upon closer inspection of your muscular frame, it is evident that you possess the makings of a formidable warrior. Indeed, you surpassed that previous fellow by leaps and bounds. Lu Yu wore a puzzled expression, wondering why this old man was both flattering and belittling him simultaneously. After all, he was also a skilled armorer. Come here, I shall appoint you as a weapons master. Chenju hesitated but stepped forward, retrieving the secrecy token from his backpack. Yet, Duan Shuqing did not even glance at the token. He simply flung it aside with disdain. I only accept disciples based on innate talent and destiny. Do not insult me with such trinkets. The secrecy token shattered upon impact with the ground. Now, let us proceed with your appointment. Repeat after me. Amidst the chaos of war, amidst the ruins and blood-soaked lands, I am the sovereign of the battlefield. Chenju echoed the words, as such a ceremony was customary for any profession upon initial appointment. Enough, enough, Duan Shuqing exclaimed, tapping Chenju on the head. I meant to say the oath is complete, and your appointment is concluded. That was so quick? Just one line? Lu Yu glanced at Chenju, observing that his secondary profession had indeed transformed into that of a weapons master. It was clear that the process had been swift. This old man was remarkably efficient, seemingly afraid that Chenju might escape. This weapons master surely must not harbor any unknown shortcomings, thought Lu Yu. He had encountered few weapons masters, but the most striking impression was the sheer power of the weaponry they crafted, particularly during sieges, where their creations were almost invincible. As for other aspects, Lu Yu was largely ignorant. However, even if he were to learn of any flaws in the weapons master, it was too late for regrets. He could only hope that Duan Shuqing genuinely valued Chenju's talent, despite Lu Yu's uncertainty regarding what that talent might be. Come, my obedient disciple. I shall first lead you to vanquish that Frostbone Dragon, and then we will return to my clan for your proper training. Duan Shuqing grasped Chenju's arm, eager to descend to the next level. No, wait a moment. Chenju quickly pulled away from Duan Shuqing's grip. Since earlier, he had felt as if he was being dragged along by this old man, and now he was being told to confront a frost dragon. Whether they could defeat it was secondary. The pressing matter was that he had noted the latter part of the old man's statement. Return to the clan? Did this imply a journey back to the dwarven race? Chenju was not yet ready to abandon the human race for adventures among other races, especially now that he was more apprehensive about the other races after uncovering the truth of the abyss. What is it, my dear disciple? Do you have any unfulfilled wishes? Are you still wary of your former superior, fearing he might not allow your departure? Duan Shuqing inquired, casting a malevolent gaze towards Lu Yu. Lu Yu felt utterly perplexed. Why had the hostility suddenly shifted towards him? This old man harbored considerable animosity. As they spoke, Duan Shuqing produced a large hammer, its surface gleaming in gold. Lu Yu was momentarily taken aback. He understood the significance of the various hammers among the dwarven clan. An iron hammer signified a first transformation. A silver hammer indicated a second, and this golden hammer must represent a third. Could it be that this elder was also a third transformation? It was highly plausible, as the Frostbone Dragon was likely a third transformation creature. If this elder were not of the same caliber, he would hardly seek trouble with such a formidable being. However, in the next instant, Duan Shuchen unexpectedly retracted the golden hammer and withdrew a silver one instead. Damn it, wrong one again. Once I eliminate that bone dragon, I shall wield the golden hammer, Lu Yu thought, incredulous at the elder's apparent third transformation. Chen Zhu swiftly intervened, grasping Duan Shuchen's arm. Wait, master. That is my friend. What of your friend? He cannot hinder your studies in weapon crafting, Duan Shuchen retorted, forcefully pinning Chen Zhu to the ground, rendering him unable to rise, and then charging towards Lu Yu. Lu Yu's brow furrowed. The elder's behavior seemed rather abnormal. He had encountered individuals with peculiar obsessions before, some of whom had even descended into madness. Yet this elder imparted an unsettling aura that left Lu Yu uneasy. Conflict, contradiction, dissonance. As Duan Shuchen approached, silver hammer in hand, Lu Yu summoned all of his mermaids without a moment's hesitation. Even the slightest risk was too great to take. 51 souls shrieked in unison. But this time, Lu Yu did not gather all the mermaids around him. Instead, he spread them across various corners of the area. As the cacophony of soul cries reverberated, everyone present was compelled to prostrate themselves. The anguish of such a soul-rending experience was beyond human endurance. Lu Yu too lowered himself to the ground. Yet his gaze surveyed the surroundings. Indeed, as the soul cries persisted, the environment began to fracture once more. Before Lu Yu, the figure of Duan Shuchen, wielding the silver hammer, started to crack and splinter. A myriad of complex emotions played across his face, some semblance of satisfaction, mingled with anger and resentment. Ultimately, these emotions shattered alongside his form, vanishing with the surrounding landscape. In their wake emerged a breathtaking scene that left Lu Yu in awe. No longer was he in an ice cavern, but rather amidst a vast expanse of ice. A skeletal dragon, enveloped in snow and ice, clawed at the ground. Its eye sockets aglow with two flickering orbs of darkness, fixated on a distant spot. Opposite it stood colossal catapults, beneath which an elderly man, his hair and beard as white as snow, stood resolute. Indeed, the scene just witnessed lingered within the consciousness of the Frostbone Dragon. What now unfolded was the authentic reality. Chapter 356. In truth, I voluntarily remained. The elder, bearing numerous scars upon his weary frame, stood resolutely. Yet his exhaustion was palpable to all. This elder was the genuine Duan Shuchen, and upon seeing Lu Yu, a smile graced his visage. Truly, you are the strongest of the human race, exhibiting remarkable insight. Lu Yu, licking his lips, found himself still harboring doubts about whether the scene before him might also be a product of the Frostbone Dragon's consciousness. Perhaps he could summon the mermaid for another soul-shattering scream. However, he swiftly dismissed this notion, for the Frostbone Dragon had already leapt into the air, its robust bone wings thrumming in the atmosphere, poised for action. The flight of dragons has never relied merely on the flapping of wings. It is an innate ability bestowed upon them from birth. The emergence of these bone wings served primarily to prevent any misidentification of the creature as a mere large lizard. The frost giant dragon soared through the skies, its jaws slightly agape as it brewed a frigid breath within. At this moment, Duan Shuchen also activated the lever of his trebuchet. Lu Yu cast his gaze over the Frostbone Dragon and Duan Shuchen, both a dragon and a man, possessed levels significantly superior to his own, leaving him with little information to glean. Yet, the basic levels were still discernible. The Frostbone Dragon stood at level 120, having undergone its third transformation, while Duan Shuchen, at level 118, was still a short distance from achieving the same. What astonished Lu Yu the most was the revelation that both the Elder and the Dragon were indeed their true forms. While it came as no surprise that the Elder was in his original body, the fact that the Frostbone Dragon, the malevolent overlord of this sinister realm, was also its true form was quite intriguing. The Elder wielded a silver hammer, protecting himself amidst a collection of weaponry. It was evident that he could not contend with the Bone Dragon in a direct confrontation. His endurance thus far was solely reliant on the arsenal behind him. As the icy breath of the Frostbone Dragon spewed forth, Duan Shuchen's trebuchet also released its lever. The massive boulder upon the trebuchet collided with the dragon's breath, resulting in a violent explosion in midair, showering the surroundings with countless shards imbued with frigid air. Lu Yu observed the trebuchet and the pile of boulders behind Duan Shuchen, where two robust half-orcs were placing another boulder onto the machine. These half-orcs were likely Duan Shuchen's companions. Given the current standoff, it was conceivable that they could endure for 7 days, after which another 7 days would mark the Elder's 7th day of mourning. Lu Yu's current strength might not suffice to overcome the third transformation of an ordinary race, let alone a Frostbone Dragon. The most prudent course of action was to have Hua and Tianxia tear open a portal, allowing himself and others to escape with Duan Shuchen. As for the Bone Dragon, it could remain there undisturbed. Although many questions remained unanswered, the immediate priority was to escape with haste. This was the intent Lu Yu conveyed to his companions. The spear of Hua and Tianxia has been unleashed, shattering the fabric of space. The pure-hearted youth and others streamed forth, embracing a life of peace as they lifted Duan Shuqing and traversed the rift in space together. Lu Yu lingered behind, the only other individual present, aside from Duan Shuqing, who might withstand a blow from the Frostbone Dragon. The Frostbone Dragon evidently sensed the intentions of Lu Yu and his companions. It unfurled its wings, its massive form plummeting rapidly, barreling straight towards the location of the spatial rift. In the distance, 2 trebuchets were activated, launching enormous boulders directly into the path of the Frostbone Dragon. It must be said, the cumbersome trebuchets displayed an astonishing accuracy, truly miraculous. Yet, the Frostbone Dragon appeared more concerned with the potential escape of Duan Shuqing, disregarding the impending boulders as they crashed against its wings. With its skeletal wings shattered, the Frostbone Dragon let out a pained roar. However, its momentum only faltered slightly before it surged forward once more. Chen Zhu cradled Duan Shuqing, one foot stepping into the alternate space, though much of his body remained outside. The rift was already beginning to close, and the time Huan Tianxia had to breach the fabric of space was limited to mere seconds. Lu Yu pushed Chen Zhu forcefully from behind, propelling both him and Duan Shuqing through the rift. As the spatial rift sealed shut, Lu Yu remained on the icy expanse. A message popped up from Huan Tianxia. Hold on for 15 minutes, my skill cooldown will finish, and I will come to retrieve you. Lu Yu dismissed the message. In truth, he could have simply collided with Chen Zhu, allowing all 3 of them to escape together. Yet, he hesitated at the crucial moment. The reason for his hesitation was the sight of the Frostbone Dragon's wings, now fractured, with its health dipping below half. Had it been a fully healthy Frostbone Dragon, Lu Yu might have turned and fled, but with its vitality diminished, he felt compelled to test his mettle. Ever since the demise of the formidable summoned beasts such as the Lord of the Nether Fortress, Tianluan, and others, Lu Yu's top-tier combat power had been severely lacking. Although Mao was currently holding the fort, a second transformation goblin was clearly inadequate against the foes Lu Yu faced. He required a powerhouse capable of sustaining the battle, and the Frostbone Dragon before him was undoubtedly the optimal choice. It could deliver damage, exert control, and, most importantly, it possessed the ability to fly. The fracture of its wings diminished the Frostbone Dragon's imposing presence, yet did not impede its aerial capabilities. As the spatial rift closed, the massive form of the Frostbone Dragon crashed onto the icy surface. Lu Yu, positioned adjacent to the rift, was forcefully propelled away. The tremendous impact reduced Lu Yu's health to the brink, but fortune favored him as he swiftly cast a healing spell amidst the collision, barely preventing his health from plummeting to 0. Without waiting for his descent, Lu Yu began to gesture vigorously, summoning a multitude of beasts to his side. A horde of goblins swiftly seized control of a nearby catapult, while tens of thousands of spectral warriors formed a battle array before Lu Yu. Their spears pointed menacingly at the Frostbone Dragon. With a deft twist, the Frostbone Dragon rose from the ground, its eye sockets ablaze with black flames, seething with hatred towards Lu Yu. It had long been aware of Lu Yu and his companions' intrusion into the ice cavern. However, its confrontation with Duan Shuqing had precluded any attention to the humans above, initially believing that the bone insects of the second layer would suffice to thwart these intruders. It was caught off guard by the presence of one who wielded spatial abilities. Now, they had breached its consciousness space and rescued its coveted war craftsman. A humiliation for the dragon in its very essence. Enduring excruciating pain, the Frostbone Dragon resolutely snapped its already severed bone wings. Though those wings could regenerate, they could not be allowed to hinder its form at this critical moment. Just as the dragon prepared to ascend once more, it suddenly noticed a flurry of white hail descending from the sky. Hail? No, it was an uncountable swarm of bone insects. With a disdainful snort, the Frostbone Dragon remarked, "Qingjiu, I have long heard of your esteemed title among humans. They say you even vanquished the son of the netherworld. I expected more of your prowess. Yet here you are, resorting to my discarded methods to confront me? How naive. These insects perish at a mere touch, while they may pose a nuisance to you. For me, they are but a trivial matter of conjuring a barrier of wind around my body." As it spoke, a fierce wind blade enveloped it, injuring any bone insect that dared to approach. Ha 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 ha, Qingjiu, do you see? Your little trick is utterly ineffectual against me. I suggest you ponder more on how to escape. The dragon's taunt was abruptly cut short as it realized, to its astonishment, that the bone insects, despite being buffeted by the wind, did not perish but instead continued to descend upon it. A wave of sharp pain surged through its body. The dragon, being a creature of bone, found that the bone insects, too, were made of the same material. When the tail stingers of the insects pierced its form, though they did not penetrate deeply, they nonetheless injected a foul venom within. In an instant, countless damage numbers erupted from the Frostbone Dragon's body. The dragon's massive frame allowed for a greater number of bone insects to settle upon it. A roar escaped its lips as it felt a tingling numbness enveloping it, nearly overwhelming its ability to maintain the protective wind around itself. In agony, it writhed through the air, thrashing its body in a desperate attempt to dislodge the bone insects. As some insects were flung away, a multitude continued to cling to its form. In that moment, the Frostbone Dragon could scarcely articulate words, only able to emit a series of furious roars. It no longer heeded the pride of its draconic lineage, crashing upon the icy expanse, its body tumbling and grinding the bone insects to death beneath it. Lu Yu's summoning gestures remained unceasing. Within the summoning space, billions of bone insects stood ready for action. The enhancement from the minor abyss proved invaluable at this moment. Without that fleeting second of invulnerability, not a single bone insect would have been able to alight upon the skeletal dragon. It was precisely that brief moment of invincibility that afforded the bone insects the opportunity to inflict damage. Although most of the bone insects were crushed to dust after their initial strike, their sheer numbers rendered even the smallest of damages magnified to an extraordinary extent. Lu Yu's gaze remained fixed upon the health bar of the frost skeletal dragon, and by merely observing its length, one could intuitively grasp the formidable vitality of this third transformation bone dragon. Yet, at that moment, this health bar was rapidly diminishing. It did not vanish in large chunks, but rather was being nibbled away, the speed of this erosion rivaling the catastrophic damage inflicted by various fearsome abilities. Suddenly, the frost skeletal dragon's health plummeted to a mere 10. At that instant, a radiant white light erupted from its form, sending all remaining bone insects flying. Concurrently, the surrounding temperature plummeted several degrees. The summoned bone insects, still suspended in midair, were caught in a freezing onslaught that rendered them invulnerable momentarily. However, by the time they descended, that invulnerability had elapsed, and they were promptly reduced to bone dust by the howling winds. Lu Yu also felt the encroaching chill, his health deteriorating at an exponential rate. Fortunately, a priest behind him was sustaining his vitality, preventing him from becoming unduly distracted. Yet the other summoned beasts were not so fortunate. The number of priests was limited, with too many dedicated to restoring Lu Yu's health. The other summoned creatures faced a grim fate, succumbing to the freezing temperatures. Lu Yu's expression grew grave. He realized that the bone insects could no longer approach the frost skeletal dragon. The once rapidly falling health bar had come to a halt, even displaying a subtle upward trend. The frost skeletal dragon gradually straightened, ceasing its tumultuous thrashing, its eyes now ablaze with fervor. Ah, the last one to trigger my passive ability was the son of the netherworld. Who would have thought that a mere second transformation being like you could push me to this extent? I have underestimated you. If it were possible, I would capture you and torment you slowly back in my clan. But alas, you are far too dangerous. It is best to eliminate you here. Lu Yu offered no retort. He had always preferred action over idle chatter. Bang, 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 bang. Not far off, a line of trebuchets activated, launching massive boulders toward the position of the frost skeletal dragon. At that moment, Lu Yu realized that operating such large machinery required a far more precise level of control. Duan Shuchen's two pets could effortlessly hurl the boulders to their intended targets, yet Lu Yu's summoned creatures lacked that same accuracy. However, accuracy was lacking, and quantity had to compensate. Duan Shuchen could only employ 2 trebuchets simultaneously, whereas Lu Yu was capable of utilizing all the trebuchets at his disposal. Massive boulders rained down upon the frostbone dragon. The moment these stones were hurled from the trebuchets, they transcended their ordinary nature, having been enhanced by the mechanisms. Their power significantly amplified. This enhancement represented the most critical function of the trebuchets. Otherwise, merely tossing stones would be scarcely distinguishable from Lu Yu's rockfall technique. The boulders launched from the trebuchets commanded respect, even from the frostbone dragon. Its dragon breath continuously spewed forth, intercepting the barrage of incoming boulders. At that moment, the frostbone dragon had experienced a marked increase in speed, strength, and skill potency compared to earlier. Previously, it could only block 2 boulders at once, but now, it effortlessly fended off 7 or 8. It even had the energy to lash its tail, launching a bone spike from its rear that pierced through one of the trebuchets. At this juncture, Lu Yu suddenly perceived that the wingless bone dragon resembled an enlarged skeletal insect. Could it be that these skeletal insects truly originated in such a manner? As this thought crossed his mind, 2 more trebuchets were reduced to ruins. The frostbone dragon was in no hurry to confront Lu Yu. It aimed first to eliminate all potential threats before leisurely engaging him. The dragon understood that even if it were to slay Lu Yu, his summoned beasts would persist in their assault. Thus, by neutralizing all immediate dangers, Lu Yu would become a proverbial fish in a barrel. Watching as each trebuchet was destroyed, Lu Yu remained impassive. These machines could not be stored in his backpack. Once crafted, they were destined to remain immovable. He could only watch helplessly as the trebuchets were dismantled, feeling no emotional turmoil, even grateful for the frostbone dragon's decision to target them first. He hoped those trebuchets would endure a little longer, for with each fleeting moment, the dragon's health would diminish. Each point lost from the dragon's vitality would increase the success rate of the Zaijinwu's strike. The Zaijinwu could only exist for approximately 10 seconds. Thus Lu Yu had to exert every effort to lower the frostbone dragon's health, aiming for a decisive blow. Chapter 358. Subduing the frostbone dragon continued its relentless destruction of the trebuchets, facing fewer and fewer boulders to block. And its rate of destruction accelerated. Although its health had dwindled to 8, the frostbone dragon was unperturbed. It was acutely aware of its own prowess. As long as it dealt with these significant threats, it could maintain an undefeated stance, even if its health were to dwindle to a mere 1. With each trebuchet falling to ruin, the Frostbone Dragon grew increasingly exhilarated. It could already envision the stubborn resistance of this strongest human, followed by how easily it would dispatch him once all the trebuchets were annihilated. It aims to reduce the Sake to level 0. It intends to eliminate all summoned beasts associated with the Sake and then obliterate it entirely. As a third-tier Frostbone Dragon, it possesses the formidable ability to eradicate an individual completely. Although its effects may not be as immediate as those of the Son of the Nether, given sufficient time, it can achieve this goal. Presently, the only regret for the Frostbone Dragon is that its consciousness space has been shattered, making it impossible to restore in the short term. Otherwise, it could have made the current situation considerably easier. Once again, a bone spike was launched, destroying the final trebuchet, thus eradicating all threats. Lu Yu could feel the exhilaration within the Frostbone Dragon soaring through the air. He watched as the dragon leisurely turned its body towards him, revealing a row of sharp teeth. It was time to conclude this bout with the Sake. Lu Yu nodded in agreement. Indeed, it was time to bring this to an end. With only 8 hit points remaining, the Frostbone Dragon, unrestrained by the trebuchets, faced limited damage from Lu Yu's other summoned beasts. The Frostbone Dragon let out a chilling roar, exhaling a frigid dragon breath. Lu Yu clicked his tongue, pondering if this dragon had no other skills apart from this repetitive breath attack. The space traversed by the breath seemed as though the very air had frozen. Yet, Lu Yu, unfazed, executed a single-handed maneuver, causing the formidable dragon breath to dissipate in an instant. In this icy environment, the temperature began to soar rapidly. A figure of golden and fiery hues appeared. The moment this figure emerged, the Frostbone Dragon wasted no time and turned to flee. It instantly recognized the identity of the Golden Crow and the immense power it possessed, fully aware of its own severely diminished state. The Frostbone Dragon knew it stood no chance against the Golden Crow. Even if there were a chance, it had no intention of engaging. The Frostbone Dragon, as a third-tier creature, understood all too well that this Golden Crow had a fourth-tier mother, following the traditions of the Golden Crow family. If it harmed the young Golden Crow, the elder would undoubtedly seek vengeance. Thus, upon sensing the Golden Crow's presence, the Frostbone Dragon fled without hesitation. Though not considering itself a villain, the Frostbone Dragon believed that uttering even a single word in this moment could diminish its chances of survival. In the previous confrontation, confidence had reigned, allowing it to speak freely, but now, with its life on the line, it dared not utter another syllable. The Frostbone Dragon's decisiveness momentarily stunned Lu Yu. He expected that the once arrogant dragon would scurry away upon the summoning of the young Golden Crow. Before Lu Yu could issue a command, the young Golden Crow transformed into a shooting star, pursuing the Frostbone Dragon. In terms of speed, the young Golden Crow was confident that no one could rival its kind, not even a dragon. After all, someone had chased its ancestors for days and nights without success. How could a wingless bone dragon hope to escape right under its nose? In the blink of an eye, the young Golden Crow had already reached the rear of the Frostbone Dragon. Aware of its dwindling time, it exerted all its strength, transforming into a blazing inferno that enveloped the Frostbone Dragon completely. In the distance, Lu Yu faintly heard the anguished roars of the Frostbone Dragon. TSK, TSK, TSK. That sounds painful, Lu Yu murmured to himself. He ceased his pursuit and stood still, awaiting the outcome. Within mere seconds, 2 beams of golden light surged from afar, crashing into Lu Yu's summoning space. The little Golden Crow fell into a deep slumber, its condition unprecedentedly lethargic. Unable to resist, Lu Yu gently caressed it. Each time he summoned it from the space, felt like a torment for the creature. He would refrain from utilizing the little Golden Crow until the final moment. Now, with the Frostbone Dragon subdued, he regained formidable combat power, alleviating the need to trouble the little Golden Crow in future dangers. Lu Yu summoned the Frostbone Dragon, a colossal being that, having been tamed, now exhibited remarkable obedience before him. He leaped onto the dragon's head, standing firmly atop it. The last time he rode a dragon, it was the juvenile Yaya belonging to Sun Hanyu. Merely a month had passed, and he now commanded a full-grown dragon. Moreover, the Frostbone Dragon was an adult, while Yaya was merely a fledgling. This thought ignited a sense of exhilaration within Lu Yu. Though a member of the undead, it was still a dragon, level 120. A third-tier dragon no less. Rubbing his hands in anticipation, Lu Yu was eager to test the dragon's strength. With a single hand gesture, he summoned the Goblin General. The cooldown for his skill to summon thousands had concluded, allowing him to conjure a new legion of goblins. The Goblin General brandished its longsword, and a fully organized goblin battalion materialized upon the icy expanse. As they revealed themselves, they immediately began to turn on one another. A deluge of arrows and spells rained down upon the battalion commander. At that moment, a breath of dragon fire descended from the skies, striking the legion. In an instant, half of the goblin forces were frozen in place. The goblins, still engaged in their self-destructive frenzy, were momentarily stunned, utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events. Moments later, a second breath of dragon fire erupted, transforming the entire goblin army into a landscape of ice sculptures. Lu Yu raised an eyebrow. Having previously underestimated the dragon's breath due to the presence of a catapult, Now he realized the true magnitude of its power. The might of a single breath was indeed terrifying. The frozen goblins began to crack, and soon, 20,000 goblins lay shattered, their remnants dispersing as beams of light into Lu Yu's summoning space. 2 breaths of dragon fire had decimated an entire legion. Such was the fearsome power of a third-tier dragon. Lu Yu smacked his lips, pleased. This was precisely the caliber of top-tier combat power he deserved. Chapter 359. The fallen objects. The frostbone dragon soared gracefully through the air, while Lu Yu stood atop its skull, surveying the vast expanse of the icy plains below. Regrettably, amidst such a vast space, the only notable sight was the dilapidated catapult not far away. Nothing else of value was in sight. Glancing at the time, Lu Yu estimated that there remained less than 10 minutes until the cooldown for Huan Tianxia's skills would conclude. The battle with the bone dragon had not lasted long. Oh, he had yet to inspect the treasures that might have been dropped after vanquishing the dragon. At Lu Yu's command, the frostbone dragon glided towards the spot where it had met its demise. On the expansive, icy plain, a patch of charred earth was distinctly visible. Although the golden crow and the bone dragon had been entangled in aerial combat, the intense heat emitted by the golden crow had melted the ice for several miles around. The prowess of the little golden crow was undoubtedly among the top in the third transformation. Had it not been afflicted by the nether poison, Lu Yu shook his head, pondering that had the little golden crow escaped the poisonous grasp, it would surely be in the secluded realm of the Sun family by now. As the bone dragon descended, 3 gleaming items emerged on the scorched earth. These must be the spoils of the bone dragon. The goblin general, with a sweeping gesture, summoned all 3 items, a bone shield, a crystal, and an egg. Lu Yu regarded the bone dragon with suspicion, tapping its skull. Why did you drop an egg? What kind of egg is this? A sycophantic voice resonated from below. Master, that is an egg of a flame horse. Once hatched, it can serve as both a pet and a mount. I thought it was your offspring, Lu Yu replied, slightly disappointed. But why would a frostbone dragon desire an egg of a flame horse? It cannot be ridden once hatched, and it conflicts with your elemental attributes. Well, I actually intended to consume that egg as a dessert after my meal, the bone dragon admitted. Lu Yu was taken aback. Just as one might crave something cool in the heat, I, living in a world of ice and snow, yearn for something warm to soothe my stomach. The bone dragon's voice trailed off, as if this admission was a source of deep embarrassment. Warmth for your stomach? Are you certain a bone dragon possesses a stomach? Lu Yu scrutinized the majestic creature before him. The bone dragon, being a member of both the undead and dragon kin, had an immense adult form, measuring around 40 to 50 meters in length. The nearly 6-meter-tall goblin general appeared entirely at ease atop its back. The dragon's body was composed entirely of bones, wreathed in tendrils of chilling mist. However, this colossal form was not entirely exposed. There existed a section on its abdomen that was tightly wrapped. This area harbored the densest cold. Could that be what the bone dragon referred to as its stomach? Indeed, your idea of a warming dessert is rather unique. After comprehending the purpose of this flame horse egg, Lu Yu found himself at a loss for words. He possessed a modicum of understanding regarding the flame horses. This tribe is known for its volatile temperament and untamable nature. However, should one succeed in domestication, they would prove to be a rare steed. Had he acquired this egg prior to subduing the frostbone dragon, he would have been thoroughly delighted, for he had long since had his fill of steeds. Yet now, with the frostbone dragon by his side, he found himself somewhat disdainful of the flame horse. As for Huan Tianxia, having summoned him to extricate himself from a predicament, it seemed only fair that he should receive some form of compensation. The young man had gained the ability to traverse space, effortlessly tearing through dimensions to reach his desired destination. Perhaps it was best to remain untroubled by worldly affairs. Both the pure-hearted youth and the dreamlike Jiangnan had acquired celestial artifacts, while Chenju had taken up the mantle of a weaponsmith. Thus, the untroubled individual lacked any particularly noteworthy possessions. As for Huan Tianxia, he would devise a means of recompense in due course. Lu Yu then picked up the bone shield, a mere common item. Upon closer inspection, it indeed appeared to be an unremarkable piece of equipment. How can a dignified third-tier bone dragon yield such a paltry item? He mused. Master, that shield is crafted from the remains of my former beloved, the dragon replied. In my youth, we were inseparable, but my slow progress led her to abandon me for another dragon. On one occasion, she even flaunted her new companion before my very eyes. After I reached the 2nd tier, I sought her out and transformed her into this bone shield. Lu Yu couldn't help but remark, what a tragically melodramatic tale. Yet, given that your former beloved was also a bone dragon, it seems unfathomable that an item fashioned from her bones could be so inferior. I deliberately had her made into a common item. She did not deserve to possess any rank, the dragon declared. A most gratifying revenge indeed, Lu Yu thought, gaining insight into the character of this frostbone dragon. And what of the bone dragon that paraded before you with your former beloved? It is now nearing the 4th tier, and I nearly became a shield in its hands. The dragon responded. Lu Yu could hardly suppress an exclamation of surprise. He suddenly perceived that this newly acquired bone dragon was truly exceptional. How did it manage to leave him breathless with every utterance? He casually tossed the bone shield back to the dragon. You may keep the shield crafted by your former beloved. The The Frostbone dragon hastily caught the shield, integrating it into its very being. Whether this dragon was cruel or devoted remained a mystery, for it had transformed its former beloved into a shield, keeping her close at hand. Lu Yu then picked up the final item, a crystal labeled Mystical Woodlands Crystal, Special Item. Effect 1. Each time the Mystical Woodlands refreshes, you may acquire a certain quantity of resources from it. Effect 2. After the refresh, you may choose whether to activate the realm. Effect 3. You may determine the location of the realm's activation. Due to the fact that the Forest Secret Realm is a domain of the Undead Clan, the effect has been amended to: you may additionally open an entrance to this secret realm within the realm of humanity. Summary. Mastery of the secret realm crystal signifies control over the very heart of the realm. Lu Yu's eyes gleamed. This was indeed the kind of treasure that a Frostbone dragon ought to yield. To his astonishment, the creature beneath him also possessed a secret realm crystal. Lu Yu examined the crystal of the Forest Secret Realm and then glanced at the previous 2 items dropped, finding them utterly incomparable. Consequently, humanity now boasted an additional Forest Secret Realm over other races, although acquiring resources from this realm would necessitate a contest against the Undead Clan. This crystal of the Forest Secret Realm could be invaluable to Ru Mengjiangnan. Medicinal herbs truly hold their greatest worth in the hands of an apothecary. Chapter 360. The Bone King's arrangement. Having surveyed all 3 items, only the final Forest Secret Realm crystal brought Lu Yu a semblance of satisfaction. The Bone Dragon inherently relied on its physical prowess and innate skills for combat, thus the scarcity of dropped items was understandable. Reflecting upon the son of the underworld, that fellow had yielded nothing at all. In comparison, the Frostbone Dragon's provision of a Secret Realm crystal was quite commendable. With this thought, Lu Yu could not help but reminisce about that 4th transformation Golden Crow, which had bestowed 3 heavenly artifacts and tailored skill books. It would be delightful to encounter such an accommodating boss frequently. By the way, where is the final boss of this malevolent map? Lead me to it, so that I may claim it as well. After gathering the dropped items, Lu Yu suddenly realized that he had not discovered an exit from the map. The final boss of this map must be at least a 2nd transformation entity. Although Lu Yu had acquired the Frost Ancient Dragon, who would refuse an additional 2nd transformation ally. Master, I'm the final boss here. You? Lu Yu reconfirmed. The Frostbone Dragon indeed being the true body. How can you be the ultimate boss here? Master, humanity was never meant to discover this malevolent map. Yet the Bone King employed certain abilities to forcibly relocate my lair into the realm of humanity, transforming it into this evil domain. The cost is that I cannot depart from my lair until the racial barrier is lifted. The Bone King of the Undead Clan had already begun to lay plans in advance. Lu Yu furrowed his brow. None of the 4 major races were idle, all scheming to encroach upon humanity. Although humanity's momentum was formidable, the emergence of a 3rd transformation being was nearly impossible before the racial barrier dissipated. Even if such a being did appear, it would not likely manifest in a remote 2nd-tier main city like Coldwinter City. The Bone King had positioned the Frostbone Dragon within the confines of Coldwinter City. Once the racial barrier fell, the entire city would be breached in an instant. While the Underworld Clan and Goblin Clan were embroiled in conflict with Lu Yu, the Undead Clan had already strategized for the future. Were it not for Chunju's mission, this malevolent map might never have been discovered. How did you end up encountering that dwarven armorer? He is nothing but a madman. The moment Duan Shuqing was mentioned, the Frostbone Dragon became agitated. He actually ventured into my lair demanding my dragon bones to forge equipment. A mere dwarven creature, not even at the 3rd transition, dared to invade my sanctuary for my dragon bones. I have never witnessed such audacity in a dwarf. The Frostbone Dragon's indignation only grew. Lu Yu, listening to the dragon's voice beneath him, couldn't help but feel skeptical. Surely, he hasn't truly broken any of your dragon bones, has he? Once a summoned beast is tamed, regardless of prior injuries, it returns to its peak condition. The Frostbone Dragon's previously shattered wings were now restored to perfection. Upon hearing Lu Yu's words, the Frostbone Dragon's demeanor deflated somewhat. When he first sought me, he was indeed at the 3rd transition. However, he was no match for me, and I defeated him once, although he managed to seize a few of my dragon bones. Lu Yu clicked his tongue. This mentor of Zhuzi was certainly a remarkable individual. Dwarves are not a race known for their combat prowess. Facing the most formidable dragon race at the same level, what a spectacle. Lu Yu was about to inquire further when a dialogue box suddenly appeared. Brother Yu, how are you holding up? Just 1 more minute, and my skill cooldown will be up. Make sure to time it right, and provide me with a coordinate. It was a message from Hua and Tianxia, expressing their concern for Lu Yu's safety. Lu Yu promptly sent a coordinate. The Frostbone Dragon has been slain. You may open the spatial rift here. The Frostbone Dragon collapsed to the ground, and Lu Yu stepped down from its head. The dragon's massive form could not pass through the spatial rift. Thus, Lu Yu recalled it to the summoning space. Before Lu Yu's coordinates, the space began to fracture, forming a rift. Hua and Tianxia, along with the pure-hearted youth and others, leaned in with astonishment, gazing at Lu Yu. Brother, did you truly slay the Frostbone Dragon? Let me pass first, Lu Yu said, pressing the pure-hearted youth's head back down before stepping through the rift. Upon entering the city of Winter's Embrace, Lu Yu was unexpectedly struck by a sense of warmth emanating from this level 2 main city. The location was a private room in an inn. In the game, aside from a few special transactions, it was rare for anyone to indulge in such luxury as to reserve a room solely for themselves. Most players were either grinding levels or seeking equipment. Returning to the main city was generally for purchasing supplies or completing quests. However, those who had just escaped the frigid ice cave felt differently. Having just engaged in a fierce battle, everyone sought a warm place to rest. In Winter's Embrace, where the average temperature hovered around -20 degrees, the inn was undoubtedly the optimal choice. Duan Shuqing lay in bed, covered by a warm blanket. As dreaming Jiangnan revitalized his vitality, it became evident that such fatigue could only be alleviated by restorative slumber, while others remained oblivious. Lu Yu was acutely aware that the old man had battled the frostbone dragon for several days and nights, successfully acquiring its bones. "Brother, I yearn to behold your bone dragon," the innocent youth expressed with eager anticipation. "The space here is too confined. I shall let you ride it in due time." "Very well." Lu Yu turned to Qinzhu. "Have you completed your appointment?" During their encounter in the realm of consciousness, the appointment had indeed been successfully established. Lu Yu nodded, recognizing that the realm of consciousness differed fundamentally from illusions, yet he had yet to inquire further about the bone dragon. There was no rush. He had many tasks ahead, and he would tackle them gradually. Lu Yu first retrieved the egg of the blazing stallion and tossed it to the carefree one. "This is for you. Now that you are at level 40, you have a pet slot available. The blazing stallion is a magnificent mount, and taming it from a young age will make riding it effortless." "Thank you, brother Yu." The carefree one beamed with delight upon seeing the information about the blazing stallion egg. He pricked his finger with a dagger, allowing a drop of blood to land on the egg. The shell began to crack, revealing a fiery red figure, a small steed, ablaze with intense flames, crowned by a single horn atop its head. A unicorn. Lu Yu marveled, wondering if even the dessert of his bone dragon was so extravagant. He then produced the crystallized essence of the arboreal secret realm and handed it to dreaming Jiangnan. "Take this. Each time the secret realm opens, it will grant you some rare herbs." Dreaming Jiangnan hesitated momentarily before accepting the crystal. "Rest assured, guild leader, I shall safeguard it diligently." Lu Yu chuckled softly. "What's given to you is yours. Simply use it to craft more potions for the guild." Chapter 361. Internal disputes with all the spoils distributed. Lu Yu looked toward Hua and Tianxia. "I apologize for making you run an errand for nothing." Hua and Tianxia waved his hand dismissively. "Don't mention it. This is not the first time." Lu Yu mused. "Why does this child have such an irritating way of speaking? When you have a chance, procure a high-grade spear for me. I'm becoming increasingly adept with a firearm, but the bright golden spear you forged for me last time is proving inadequate." "Understood." Lu Yu made a mental note of this. He wondered how old Wu was faring. Should he regain his senses, it would be possible to acquire a blueprint from him. Suddenly, a cough emanated from the bed. Duan Shuqin. Lu Yu hurried to the bedside. Upon seeing Lu Yu, Duan Shuqin smiled. "I thought it was impressive enough that you accidentally breached the first layer of the consciousness realm. I never anticipated you would also penetrate the second layer. It was entirely thanks to your guidance that I realized the existence of the second layer." At that moment, Duan Shuqin bore no resemblance to the confrontational figure he had been in the realm of consciousness. "If circumstances permitted, I would much prefer to take you on as my final disciple. Alas, you are already occupied with another vocation." Qinzhu, standing nearby, couldn't help but scoff. He had deliberately showcased his side profession as a weapon master, yet his mentor did not spare him even a glance. Lu Yu interjected, "In truth, the disciple you have chosen now is better suited than I." "Oh, pray tell, why do you say so?" "As far as I understand, the crafting of weaponry necessitates hands-on involvement. Indeed, weaponry is not akin to mere equipment. The complexity involved in producing each component is comparable to that of an entire piece of gear, not to mention the final assembly." "Precisely. I am not the type to patiently hammer away at individual parts. I might abandon an unfinished weapon in a moment of distraction. However, my friend here is quite the opposite. He has been fond of handiwork since childhood and possesses the ability to quietly perfect a task." As Liu spoke, he drew Qinzhu closer, intentionally encouraging Duan Shuqin to recognize Qinzhu's worth. This elder had once been a formidable expert, capable of extracting dragon bones. Although his level had since fallen below 120, his prowess remained formidable, making him a significant figure among the dwarves. None of Lu Yu's mentors had achieved the third transition. Even Sun Hanyu, after traveling among the various races, had only reached level 100. Still far from the third transition. Upon hearing Lu Yu's words, Duan Shuqin turned his attention to Qinzhu, his expression growing earnest. "I had originally held high hopes for you, or I would not have appointed you. However, the role of Abyss Summoner is better suited for harnessing the might of weaponry, as it requires a considerable number of hands to operate effectively. Now that Qingjiu believes you to be more fitting, I shall devote myself wholeheartedly to your instruction, and I hope you will strive earnestly in your endeavors." Duan Shuqin did not shy away from admitting his preference for Lu Yu, openly expressing his thoughts, which gradually alleviated Qinzhu's previous reservations. "Rest assured, mentor, I shall prove myself to you." Duan Shuchen nodded and turned back to Lu Yu, saying, I have heard that the clan intends to collaborate with the human race and has specifically requested your presence. Lu Yu was taken aback by Duan Shuchen's initiative in broaching this matter, as he had been contemplating it himself. Given Duan Shuchen's level and status, he would certainly possess more information. Indeed, I have devoted myself to the study of weaponry for many years, neglecting clan affairs. However, since you saved my life, I shall share some truths with you. Lu Yu remained silent, patiently waiting for Duan Shuchen to continue, while Hua and Tian also listened intently. The clan seeks to forge a friendship with the human race, a notion proposed after the first Golden Hammer was obliterated in Jinjing City. Yet, with the investigation into Wanjin Mountain and Jinjing City, dissenting voices have emerged within the clan. They have deduced through various analyses that you, Qingjiu, were the most likely architect behind the destruction of Jinjing City. As Li was about to speak, he was abruptly interrupted by Duan Shuchen. There is no need for you to defend yourself. I have already stated that I have not concerned myself with clan matters for quite some time. Whether or not you are responsible for this incident is of little consequence. What truly matters is the attitude of the Dwarven clan towards you. Presently, opinions within the clan are divided into two factions. One faction believes that given your current trajectory, you will undoubtedly achieve the fourth transformation, and under your leadership, the human race will experience a renaissance. Thus they are eager to cultivate a favorable relationship with you. Conversely, the other faction perceives you as an exceedingly dangerous individual. Since you were able to silently annihilate Golden Steel City, they fear you pose a threat to the entire Dwarven clan. Do the latter faction wish to eliminate me now? No, they desire for the Dwarven clan to maintain neutrality. Ever since the news of your slaying of the son of the underworld spread among the various races, they have realized that whether or not you were responsible for the destruction of Golden Steel City, they are unable to take action against you. Lu Yu nodded, noting that Duan Shuchen consistently referred to the Dwarven clan as they rather than we. It appeared that this elder did not possess a strong sense of belonging to the Dwarven clan. Their attitude towards you reflects their stance towards the entire human race. I personally hope for the Dwarven clan to establish a positive relationship with humanity. Thank you, Lu Yu said earnestly, grateful for Duan Shuchen's reminder, as he had been unaware of the sentiments within the Dwarven clan. After hearing Duan Shuchen's insights, Lu Yu had already formulated a plan for his approach to the Dwarven clan. He too wished for a harmonious relationship between humanity and the Dwarven clan. For based on his experiences from the previous life, neutrality often equated to siding with the alien factions led by the underworld race. Please take care and rest well. We shall not disturb you further, Lu Yu remarked, casting a glance at Chen Zhu, who grinned. I am not leaving. Lu Yu nodded, preparing to depart. However, Duan Shuchen suddenly interjected, there is one more matter. Lu Yu turned back. I sensed the presence of the celestial stone in your backpack. You likely have no use for it, correct? Lu Yu retrieved the celestial stone from his backpack, intending to hand it to Duan Shuchen. The elder, however, shook his head. No, I have no need for this at present. Give it to my disciple instead. Lu Yu glanced at Chen Zhu, then back at Duan Shuchen. Bemused by the elder's swift change of demeanor, just moments ago, he had expressed admiration for Lu Yu, only to now defend his disciple. Lu Yu handed the celestial stone to Chen Zhu, also giving him a collection of ores suitable for forging weapons before finally taking his leave. As Duan Shuchen watched Lu Yu's retreating figure, he murmured softly, a mere blacksmith from a servant clan now wishes to personally engage in a contest of strength. How reckless. Sigh. Master, what are you saying? Chen Zhu inquired. Nothing of consequence. Very well, from this moment forth, I shall impart to you all the skills of a weaponsmith. I am unable to rise from my bed, so we shall begin with the most fundamental theories. Chapter 362, Bowing Down? Lu Yu stepped out of his room, and Huan and Tian Xia immediately approached him. Brother Yu, I must report what Duan Shuchen mentioned to the director. Lu Yu nodded and added, by the way, inquire with your director about the negotiations with the Dwarven clan. He had already devised a strategy in his mind for his forthcoming visit to the Dwarven clan. The highest combat strength of the Dwarven clan consisted of 1 or 2 third-tier warriors. Moreover, according to Duan Shuchen's earlier comments, the voices of support and opposition within the Dwarven clan were evenly split. The dissenters were not seeking to ally with the likes of the Abyssal clan. After the incident involving Wanjinshan, it was unlikely they would be inclined towards those major clans. The fundamental reason for their indecision stemmed from concerns over their own strength. If he could demonstrate sufficient power, Lu Yu believed that the majority of the Dwarven clan would prefer to collaborate with the human clan. While Lu Yu was unaware of the history within the Abyss, he had observed the responses of other clans and recognized that the human clan undoubtedly held a unique position in the Abyss. Huan and Tian Xia quickly reported this information via the screen. Soon, Lu Yu's dialogue box vibrated with a message from Li Wei, young brother Lu. Tian Xia, just brief me on the situation. Where are you now? Let's discuss in person. I'm in Cold Winter City. I'll head to my guild's territory shortly. Good. With Li Wei's affirmation, Lu Yu and the others used a return scroll, and in a flash of light, they found themselves in the central square of the guild's territory. The convenience of the return scroll was truly remarkable, Lu Yu mused once more. The members of the uncontentious clan greeted Lu Yu before busily attending to their own matters, leaving him to wait for Li Wei's arrival. After a brief moment, two figures materialized at the teleportation array. Accompanying Li Wei was a woman he had never seen before. Appearing to be in her 40s, of similar height to Li Wei, with an air of arrogance about her that evoked a sense of discomfort in Lu Yu. Li Wei approached Lu Yu with the woman in tow. Brother Lu, allow me to introduce you. This is He Zihua, the acting director of our second office. The second office? Lu Yu recalled that Li Wei had mentioned they were in the process of establishing this office, primarily tasked with fostering communication with other races. He extended his hand. Director He, it's a pleasure to meet you. He Zihua, somewhat reluctant, nonetheless offered a brief handshake with her fingertips. Shall we proceed inside to discuss? Lu Yu suggested, leading the two into the castle. Once bustling with servants, the interior had long been transformed, with various rooms now designated as meeting and activity spaces. Labels adorned the doors: Main Alliance Captain Meeting Room, Main Alliance First Team Activity Room, First Sub-Alliance Activity Room, and so forth. Lu Yu entered a small room accompanied by two others, a space specifically designated for meetings. Once seated, He Zihua wasted no time and addressed the matter directly. I have heard from Director Li about the situation relayed by Huan Tianxia. This is intelligence we have not previously acquired. He Zihua's expression bore a hint of gravity as he continued. Lu Yu, I wish to confirm with you first. Was it truly you who obliterated Jingguang City? Indeed, Lu Yu replied, unburdened by guilt. Recalling a task that had been imperative to complete, He Zihua inhaled sharply, his demeanor growing more somber. And his gaze toward Lu Yu turned slightly adversarial. You must understand that we are currently at a critical juncture in our diplomatic relations with the dwarven race. Your actions could irrevocably damage the rapport we have established. Lu Yu furrowed his brow, retorting, when has our relationship with the dwarven race ever been amicable? Director He, the fall of Jingguang City occurred before any contact with the dwarves. Furthermore, as I understand it, had it not been for the destruction of Jingguang City and the revelation of the truth surrounding Wanjin Mountain, the dwarves would not even have considered engaging with us. Regardless of when it transpired, it undeniably affects our current relationship with the dwarves. They are already suspicious of you, and I urge you to proactively confess your transgressions to them and publicly apologize in hopes of securing their forgiveness. Listening to He Zihua, Lu Yu's expression darkened. The earlier ease replaced by a pall of seriousness. Li Wei, seated nearby, was equally taken aback by He Zihua's statements. As the head of the first office, while he supported the second office's endeavors, he had not been fully involved. Now, hearing He Zihua's words, he was momentarily stunned before hastily interjecting. Director He, perhaps we should reconsider this matter. Lu Yu's actions were certainly driven by compelling reasons, and during our prior discussions, we agreed that Lu Yu's visit to the dwarven race would represent our human stance. Precisely. I am articulating our human stance. He Zihua interrupted Li Wei without hesitation. The dwarven race is the first alien group that has engaged with us, and we must cultivate a positive relationship with them, ideally forging an alliance. We need to demonstrate our sincerity to the other races, and for that, we must learn to humble ourselves. Lu Yu's expression grew even darker. Others might be oblivious, but he was acutely aware of the alien race's sentiments toward humanity. He had endured the brutalities inflicted upon humans by these races. To bow before them? Absurd. Were this woman not the head of the second office of the Huan Bureau, his palm would have already struck her. Li Wei hastily remarked, Lu Yu, Director He is acting in the interest of the greater good for humanity. Perhaps her expression was not entirely clear. Director He, let us not jump to conclusions. We should deliberate on this matter further. There is still a day or two before Lu Yu's engagement with the dwarven race, and perhaps we can devise a more favorable approach. I have expressed myself quite clearly. We must bow our heads and seek the forgiveness of the dwarven race. Lu Yu stood up and inquired, Director He, is this your personal stance, or is it the position of the second office? Or perhaps, it reflects the attitude of the Huan Bureau? He Zihua also rose to his feet, asserting, I represent the second office, the diplomatic department of the Huan Bureau. My stance is the stance of the Huan Bureau. Lu Yu grasped the blazing sunfire staff, its flames crackling with intensity. Chapter 363, A Grave Misstep. Observing Lu Yu seize the staff, He Zihua scoffed derisively. What? Do you wish to resort to violence? Let me remind you, assaulting a public servant, bang. The staff swung around and struck He Zihua squarely in the face. Simultaneously, a healing beam enveloped her. Given He Zihua's low level, even a physical attack from Lu Yu, a mage, could potentially prove fatal. A vivid red mark appeared on He Zihua's face. This is a game. Taking lives holds no consequence, let alone striking someone. Moreover, I am not assaulting a human, but merely a dog, an insufferable mutt yapping on behalf of an alien race. After delivering his words, Lu Yu turned to Li Wei, saying, Director Li, I have always held you and the Huan Bureau in high esteem. Whether it was the initial guild establishment decree or the various intelligence you provided later, I have been entirely forthcoming. However, regarding the treatment of the dwarven race, I believe you ought to reconsider your approach. Lu Yu's words were direct yet measured. He had noticed Li Wei's evident distaste for He Zihua's decision. Indeed, this matter requires further deliberation. I apologize for the intrusion. As Li Wei spoke, he directly utilized a return scroll to depart. He Zihua, wishing to voice her thoughts, swallowed her words upon witnessing the staff in Lu Yu's grasp. She finally grasped that they were within a game, where striking, killing, and tormenting others bore no legal repercussions. Furthermore, the sensation of pain in this realm was unsettlingly vivid. Lu Yu's earlier strike left her face stinging. With Li Wei gone, she felt even more endangered in solitude, so she too opted to use a return scroll. Before her form vanished, she cast a fierce glare at Lu Yu. The conference room was left with Lu Yu alone, seated on the sofa, lost in contemplation. After an indeterminate time, a dialogue box materialized, bearing a message from Rumeng Jiangnan, guild leader. It seems your mentor has returned to normal, and he appears to have developed an extraordinary blueprint. Upon reading Rumeng Jiangnan's message, Lu Yu's spirit soared. After 3 long days, Wu Tianzhu had successfully transported the firearms to the abyss. I shall head over immediately, Lu Yu replied, and activated a return scroll, arriving in the Gathering City. In the absence of 2 days, Gathering City had become even more vibrant, with throngs of players above level 30 bustling along the streets. The map surrounding the City of Unity is predominantly populated by first-turn wild creatures, perfectly suited for mainstream players seeking to level up. Outside the city walls, Lu Yu once again caught sight of the pink giant, who held a massive stone slab in one hand and a trowel in the other. Was he expanding the walls? Upon closer inspection, it indeed appeared that the walls were being extended. The City of Unity had barely been established for a short while, and already its capacity for players had reached saturation. This realization brought Lu Yu a sense of satisfaction. He did not linger on the streets, but summoned the Frostbone Dragon and soared towards the Lord's mansion. Who would ride a horse when one could ride a dragon? The enormous body of the dragon cast a shadow over the City of Unity, eliciting exclamations from both players and guards within the city. Meanwhile, in the Lord's mansion, Sun Hanyu, who was buried in paperwork, felt a sudden chill. She sensed the presence of a dragon, and not just any dragon, but an adult one. How could the City of Unity attract an adult dragon? If it were to wreak havoc within the city, it would be reduced to ashes. As the ruler of this city, she could not allow such a calamity to unfold. Although she was likely no match for a third-turn giant dragon at this moment, she had to intervene. With a slightly youthful roar, she mounted her dragon, Yaya, and directly intercepted the path of the Frostbone Dragon. Sun Hanyu had mentally prepared herself for a fierce battle. She had calculated that Yaya alone would not stand a chance against the Frostbone Dragon. However, with the assistance of her other summoned beasts, there was a chance to inflict considerable damage. If the players within the city joined forces, they might even be capable of slaying this bone dragon. The only regret was that her cherished apprentice was not present. Otherwise, their chances of success would have significantly increased. As Sun Hanyu contemplated this, her gaze remained coldly fixed on the hovering bone dragon in the distance. The oppressive aura emanating from it made even a summoner accustomed to dragons feel a twinge of discomfort. Third turn, she silently vowed that if she survived this encounter, she would dispose of those dreadful documents and embark on a journey to the other races, striving to ascend to the third turn as soon as possible. Sun Hanyu could sense Yaya beneath her stirring with a hint of anxiety. After all, Yaya was still an immature giant dragon and felt somewhat overwhelmed in the presence of a fully realized dragon. She leaned down, gently stroking Yaya's head. Yaya, if we survive this time, I will take you to find the opportunity for maturation. We too shall crush everything beneath us, just like that bone dragon. Yaya understood Sun Hanyu's words, and her unease transformed into a surge of excitement. Sun Hanyu was ready. Should the bone dragon make any move, she would immediately lead Yaya and her other summoned beasts to deliver a decisive strike. However, the bone dragon remained motionless in the air, seemingly stuck. Gradually, Sun Hanyu noticed that the flames in the dragon's eyes were not burning fiercely. Instead, they exuded a somewhat appeasing demeanor. What could this mean? Her eyes narrowed in focus as she scrutinized the skeletal dragon, and only then did she discern a figure standing atop its head. The individual appeared to be waving at her. The distance rendered Sun Hanyu unable to discern the person's features, yet the silhouette and gestures suggested an uncanny resemblance to her disciple. In a flurry, Sun Hanyu summoned a diminutive pink roc, still in its juvenile form, yet possessing a remarkably effective long-distance vision ability. As her spiritual perception activated, she gazed at the figure on the skeletal dragon's head, her eyes widening in disbelief. It was indeed her disciple. A tumult of emotions surged within Sun Hanyu. Moments ago, she had steeled herself for the worst, only to discover that the dragon was, astonishingly, her disciple's summon. How infuriating. When he descends, I shall certainly give him a thorough reprimanding. Flustered, she realized she had initially overlooked Lu Yu, who stood atop the skeletal dragon. The dragon's massive form, nearly 100 meters in length, made Lu Yu appear diminutive, akin to a 2-centimeter figure perched upon the shoulders of a robust man standing at 6 feet tall. Coupled with the imposing presence of the skeletal dragon, it was only natural for one's gaze to be drawn towards the creature, thereby neglecting the small figure atop it. Once assured that the frost skeletal dragon was merely her disciple's summoned creature, Sun Hanyu felt a wave of relief wash over her. However, at that moment, a series of heavy and thunderous footsteps echoed from afar. The tiny giant had inexplicably procured a massive wooden club, charging towards the skeletal dragon while roaring ferociously. Sun Hanyu froze, sensing an impending calamity. Her thoughts had been solely consumed with how to deal with the frost skeletal dragon, momentarily forgetting the rampaging little giant outside. The enmity between giants and dragons was an age-old conflict, and typically, Sun Hanyu refrained from summoning both Yaya and the little giant simultaneously. Yet, in this urgent situation, she had let this crucial detail slip her mind. Lu Yu, atop the frost skeletal dragon, was equally taken aback. He perceived the shift in Sun Hanyu's expression through the black-headed eagle and understood that she had recognized him. But why was the little giant charging at him with such ferocity? It appeared intent on confronting the skeletal dragon beneath him. Suddenly, Lu Yu recalled the historical animosity between the giant and dragon clans, and he felt a wave of exasperation wash over him. This was escalating beyond control. The little giant was trampling through residential areas, leaving destruction in his wake and inadvertently crushing several unsuspecting players. As the little giant drew nearer, Lu Yu realized he could no longer remain atop the skeletal dragon. His hesitation was not born from fear of the little giant overpowering the skeletal dragon. After all, the little giant was still an adolescent, and defeating it would merely require a few blasts of dragon breath. However, the battleground was within the confines of the guild city, and should the skeletal dragon engage in combat here, it could raise half the city to the ground. Thus, Lu Yu commanded the skeletal dragon to descend, and upon landing, swiftly returned it to the summoning realm. Sun Hanyu, in a similar haste, recalled Yaya. The little creature, having lost its purpose, roared furiously in place, wildly swinging the giant club in its hand, toppling rows of houses. It was not until Sun Hanyu arrived and spent considerable time soothing it that it finally calmed down and resumed its wall building. Chapter 364. Just lucky within the Lord's manor. Lu Yu stood somewhat apologetically before the slightly irate Sun Hanyu. You are quite impressive, capable of taming a third-tier adult bone dragon. Ah, it was merely luck, just luck, he replied. And then you brought your bone dragon to wreak havoc here? That was purely accidental, and it's your little creature that caused the damage to the houses. My bone dragon did not strike. Could you repeat that? Lu Yu, understanding the gravity of the situation, promptly closed his mouth and discreetly messaged Ru Meng Jiangnan. Jiangnan, quickly. Open an entrance to the woodland secret realm outside Ju-Yi City. Huh, leader, the woodland secret realm won't open for several days. Never mind that. Just open an entrance first, and let the system send out the message. Oh, okay. Sun Hanyu, observing Lu Yu's subtle actions, became even more incensed. I am speaking with you. Your antics will lead everyone to believe that Ju-Yi City is in danger. The hard-won popularity will gradually dissipate. Indeed, the initial influx of players to Ju-Yi City was due to your opening of the Stone Secret Realm. However, once the momentum wanes, it is exceedingly difficult to regain. If the player count dwindles, the city's finances will falter, putting it at risk of collapse. I do not wish to criticize you. If possible, I would prefer to return to being the former chieftain. However, this city is not solely my creation. It embodies both our efforts. When the city begins to wither, can you summon another secret realm to attract players? System notification. Player, Ru Ming Jiangnan, has opened a passage to the Woodland Secret Realm in the east of Ju-Yi City. The Woodland Secret Realm will open in 108 hours. Players are encouraged to participate on time. Lu Yu remained silent, smiling at Sun Hanyu. Sun Hanyu exclaimed, You truly have summoned another secret realm? Ah, just luck, merely luck. This system notification abruptly disrupted the emotions Sun Hanyu had been cultivating. She suddenly felt as though her disciple had grown up. He was no longer the novice waiting to be rescued from the clutches of the underworld clan. Sun Hanyu bit her lip, striving to suppress the smile that threatened to break forth. Lu Yu continued to remain silent, smiling at his mentor. Eventually, Sun Hanyu could no longer contain herself and burst into laughter. I know you summoned the frost giant dragon with the intention of intimidating the surrounding rascals. But next time, do let me know in advance, and also be mindful of the occasion. You are well aware of the relationship between giants and dragons. Lu Yu nodded silently, yet he felt a twinge of insecurity within. His summoning of the bone dragon was merely a display for the sake of impressing others, not truly intended to instill fear in the nefarious. Furthermore, concerning the damaged shops and residences, rest assured, Master, I shall compensate for these losses. I will have new ones constructed for you. Once completed, you may utilize them as you see fit. The locations of those shops and houses are quite favorable. Although your guild has acquired territory, you have yet to establish a foothold in Gathering City. I shall gift those locations to you, but do remember to pay your taxes. Lu Yu felt a surge of joy. No one would ever resent having more property. Thank you, Master. Enough of that. You returned for Old Man Wu, didn't you? It seems he has indeed devised something remarkable. You should go and see. All right then, Master, I shall take my leave. With that, Lu Yu exited the Lord's Hall and made his way towards the backyard, leaving only Sun Hanyu behind in the hall. Upon seeing Lu Yu depart, she let out a deep sigh. Her disciple was so formidable that it rendered her presence as a teacher almost insignificant. Moreover, she had just noticed that her prized student was on the verge of reaching level 70, and it was likely that he would soon attain level 80. Should Lu Yu undergo his second-class transition before she achieved her third, the system would deem her unqualified to continue as his mentor. resulting in an automatic dissolution of their master-disciple relationship. This was unacceptable. She needed to expedite her own advancement to the third transition. Gritting her teeth, Sun Hanyu resolved to hasten her journey among the other races. As Lu Yu arrived in the backyard, he could hear the resounding clang of metalwork from a distance. Wu Tianzhu and Bao Fu were immersed in their craft, both stripped to the waist, their hammers striking with sparks flying. Upon entering, Lu Yu went unnoticed by either of them. He approached a long table piled with blueprints adorned with intricate line drawings, picking up a few. He couldn't help but display a puzzled expression. After the intense forging session that spanned an entire day and night, he had become nearly a master craftsman at the earth level, yet these blueprints were utterly incomprehensible to him. Just as he pondered this, Wu Tianzhu suddenly exclaimed with excitement. This is the final piece. We are on the verge of completion. Chapter 365. A.K. Wu Tianzhu wielded his hammer with renewed fervor, and Bao Fu's face mirrored his exhilaration. The rhythmic clanging of metal in the courtyard transformed into the most exquisite melody in the world. Lu Yu stood quietly to the side, silently observing the intense expressions of the two men. This was not the kind of madness one would expect from ordinary individuals. It was no wonder that some claimed true geniuses were often mad. The crafting of the final component did not take long. With Wu Tianzhu's concluding strike, a trigger-shaped piece was forged. Wu Tianzhu and Bao Fu then seized all the completed parts, their four hands working in unison to assemble them together. As a firearm-like weapon took shape, Lu Yu observed the transformation in the professional standings of two individuals. Wu Tianzhu officially ascended to the rank of a top-tier armorer, merely a step away from the celestial tier. Bao Fu, on the other hand, had also entered the realm of earth-tier armorers. Logically, Bao Fu had joined Wu Tianzhu's tutelage over a month after Lu Yu, rendering him Lu Yu's junior disciple. Yet, to everyone's surprise, this junior had outpaced Lu Yu, achieving earth-tier status in less than 3 days. Lu Yu couldn't help but click his tongue, rather than feeling jealousy. He pondered how he might secure Bao Fu's allegiance within his dominion as the Lord of the Abyss. Wu Tianzhu was affiliated with Sun Hanyu, and although Lu Yu shared a close bond with his mentor, it was impossible to have Wu Tianzhu serve exclusively for the Lord of the Abyss. The gang boasted several skilled armorers, yet among them, only Lu Yu stood at the pinnacle. Unfortunately, Lu Yu's own journey as an armorer was akin to fishing for 3 days and sunbathing for 30. He could hardly dedicate himself to crafting equipment for his gang members. If he could entice Bao Fu into the gang, equipment woes would be alleviated, and Lu Yu could relieve some of his burdens. While Lu Yu was lost in thought, he suddenly heard Wu Tianzhu and Bao Fu erupt in cheers. Ha! We finally succeeded. This gun is operational. Moreover, its attributes surpass my expectations. Lu Yu glanced at the firearm in Wu Tianzhu's hands. It bore a resemblance to an AK, albeit larger. Most importantly, it appeared to lack a magazine. Come here. Foolish disciple, give it a try? Lu Yu realized Wu Tianzhu was addressing him. Huh, foolish disciple? Is he referring to me? Don't just stand there, hurry over. This gun has a rather high-level requirement. Neither Bao Fu nor I can use it. At that moment, Lu Yu confirmed that the term foolish disciple was indeed meant for him. It seemed this old man had been aware of his arrival all along, but had chosen to ignore him until now. After taking on the genius Bao Fu, had he become the neglected first disciple? Lu Yu quietly produced several pieces of celestial tier ore. Master, were you calling for me? I emerged from the Golden Stone secret realm with some ores of acceptable quality that I wish to present to you. But, as Lu Yu spoke, he pretended to retract the ores, fully aware of how to manipulate his mentor. Sure enough, upon seeing the ores, Wu Tianzhu's eyes lit up, and when he noticed Lu Yu attempting to withdraw them, he looked as though he had seen a duck about to fly away just as it was within his grasp. No. Oh, my dear disciple, when did you arrive? As he spoke, Wu Tianzhu approached Lu Yu and deftly took the ores from his hands. The once frantic Wu Tianzhu remained the same Wu Tianzhu as ever. Lu Yu acquired the freshly forged AK from Wu Tianzhu, which boasted the following attributes. AK, weapon, level, 70 attack, 2,100 magic power, 2,100 attack speed, 300 critical hit, 200 additional effects. Increases the user's hit rate and critical hit rate by 10. Effect 1, armor penetration, ignoring 20 defense of the target. Effect 2, maim. Each attack has a 10 chance to incapacitate the target. Effect 3, no cost, no ammunition required. Each shot consumes 10 mana points. Restriction, usable only by ranged classes. This firearm not only enhances attack power, but also amplifies magical strength, indicating its dual capacity for physical and magical damage. However, the third effect and the final restriction suggest that it is more suited for mages, while the absence of ammunition consumption appears to lessen resource expenditure for warrior classes. The mana pool may barely exceed 1,000, allowing for just 100 shots. In actual combat, 100 bullets may suffice for an individual, as elite soldiers typically carry no more than 200 rounds. Yet, within the Abyss, 100 rounds are far from adequate. This weapon serves as a potent tool for mages, but proves somewhat impractical for warriors. Moreover, with a level requirement of 70, it is likely that, apart from Lu Yu, no other players can wield it at this stage. Nevertheless, this weapon is a formidable firearm suitable for use in the abyss, far surpassing the firearms crafted by the dwarves. Having placed the oars, Wu Tianju turned back to Lu Yu, inquiring, "What do you think? My ingenious invention, along with my brilliant apprentice, is far superior to your mediocre firearm, I assent. Lu Yu nodded in approval. Indeed, it's quite impressive. However, old man, have you considered that with such a high-level requirement, who can actually use it? While the firearm may be of a lower tier, at least it is a more accessible product. Your AK may be described as high-end, but frankly speaking, stop. I do not wish to hear the unflattering details." Wu Tianju interjected, visibly displeased. After a moment, he sighed. "I did contemplate lowering the level requirement, but to do so would necessitate the use of inferior materials, which cannot withstand the weapon's power." Bao Fu, standing nearby, nodded in agreement, noting that if not for the level issue, the firearm could have been completed a day earlier. The two had exhausted all options to reduce the weapon's level requirement from 80 to 70 without altering the materials. Further reduction proved impossible. If you can't lower the level, why not add a familiar effect? Lu Yu suggested. "Kid, are you truly my apprentice, Wu Tianju? Do you think familiar effects can be added at will?" Lu Yu found himself momentarily speechless. He frequently witnessed the seamless application of special effects, yet he was unaware of any additional requirements for incorporating such effects. However, from what old Wu implied, it seemed that this particular effect could not be added. Consequently, the AK would truly become a useless endeavor. Was there any method to lower the AK's level? Chapter 366, Abyss Enhanced AK. After a brief contemplation, Lu Yu recalled the small abyss within his summoning space. "Please wait a moment. I shall see if there is a solution," he announced. Old Wu had expressed his helplessness, and Lu Yu, a mere bronze-tier armorer, felt reluctant to engage in further debate. He sought a secluded spot and summoned the small abyss. This was the second time this rebellious creature had emerged from the summoning space. The last time it had only been for a fleeting moment before being sent back. "Master, what are your commands?" the small abyss inquired, displaying unwavering loyalty. Lu Yu waved the AK in his hand. "Think of a way to enhance this weapon and see if it can acquire a seamless application effect." With that, he tossed the AK into the small abyss's mouth. The AK vanished from sight, and shortly thereafter, the small abyss responded, "Master, this weapon possesses high malleability. With sufficient energy consumption, significant alterations can be made. Aside from the seamless application, do you have any other requests?" Upon hearing this, Lu Yu immediately perked up. Initially, he only desired the seamless application effect. However, since further modifications were possible, he naturally wished to pursue them. First, he aimed to reduce the blue energy cost of its third effect, then ideally eliminate any class restrictions. Lastly, as a level 70 ground tier weapon, its attributes were merely average. If they could be doubled, that would be even better. Lu Yu expressed his aspirations in full. While merely adding the seamless application effect would suffice for usability, he could not be content with mere functionality. Given the AK's significant malleability, he intended to maximize its potential. Yet, as he articulated his desires, the small abyss fell silent. It understood its master all too well, seeking the best enhancements while wishing to expend the least energy. However, the energy required for Lu Yu's enhancement requests was indeed substantial. Noticing Lu Yu's intent to continue, the small abyss finally mustered the courage to interject. "Master, I have a question." "What is it?" Lu Yu inquired. "Is it impossible to enhance based on my previous requests?" "Not exactly," the small abyss replied cautiously. "However, fulfilling your specifications may demand a considerable amount of energy." Lu Yu immediately grasped the small abyss's meaning. The creature was being quite diplomatic. Yet since it had broached the subject, the energy required was likely significant. How much energy would be needed to fully enhance those requests? He asked. "At least 600 goblins. This is because the summoned creatures in Lu Yu's spatial domain, aside from the skeletal insects, are predominantly goblins. If one were to measure in hypotheticals, the count would soar into the hundreds of thousands, or even millions. Thus, the diminutive abyss wisely opted for the second most populous creature, the goblin, as a unit of measurement. 600 goblins? The little abyss hastily clarified. If we only consider familiarizing ourselves with the process, 100 goblins would suffice. However, to eliminate the restrictive conditions and reduce the consumption of the third effect, the total escalates to 500 goblins. Moreover, for attribute doubling, I can only enhance its primary attribute by 20, while the secondary and effect attributes remain unchanged, which requires an additional 100 goblins. The little abyss hurriedly delivered this lengthy explanation, fearful that Lu Yu might misconstrue his intentions as self-serving. In reality, Lu Yu harbored no such concerns. He could easily ascertain whether the little abyss was indulging itself merely by observing its physique. The reason for Lu Yu's earlier exclamation stemmed from his realization that the energy required for the enhancement was significantly less than he had anticipated. When he had previously reinforced the ring of emotional affliction, it had consumed a staggering 5,000 goblins. Yet, the AK, being of the same earthly grade, required only a tenth of that amount. This perplexity was swiftly conveyed to the little abyss through his thoughts. Startled, the little abyss responded slowly, "Master, the ring of emotional affliction possesses exceptional growth potential. Upon enhancement, it not only ascends to celestial artifact status, but can further evolve into a divine artifact, or even reach higher tiers. Conversely, no matter how much one reinforces the AK, it remains at the level of an earthly artifact. After hearing the Little Abyss's explanation, Liu found it somewhat plausible. However, he couldn't shake the feeling that the little creature had appeared startled a moment ago, trembling slightly, instinctively sensing something amiss. He couldn't quite pinpoint what felt off. Master, if we utilize the main body of the summoned creature for reinforcement, the required number of goblins decreases even further. The Little Abyss's words interrupted Lu Yu's train of thought. Less for the main body, he inquired. Indeed, it would only require about 50 of the projection's number. Lu Yu nodded slightly. The energy ratio between the main body and its projection was approximately 2:1. However, he was still reluctant to allow the Little Abyss to consume its main body. Although the required quantity was reduced, the main body could be utilized indefinitely, while the projection, once perished, would vanish completely. This calculation was rather straightforward. First, consume 600 goblin projections, then enhance this AK, Lu Yu instructed, recalling the Little Abyss into his summoning space. He wished to observe the effects of the enhancement. Moments later, the AK was regurgitated by the Little Abyss. AK, Earthly Artifact. Abyssal Enhancement, Level, 70 Attack, 25-20 Magical Power, 25-20 Attack Speed, 360 Critical Hit, 240 Addition. Increases the user's hit rate and critical hit rate by 10. Effect 1. Armor Piercing. This ability allows the user to disregard 20 points of the target's defense. Effect 2. Maim. Each attack has a 10 chance to incapacitate the target. Effect 3. No cost. This ability does not require ammunition. Each shot expends only 2 points of magical power. Effect 4. Mastery. Reduces the user's level requirement by 30 levels. Upon reviewing the enhanced attributes, Lu Yu nodded in satisfaction, particularly pleased with the alteration in Effect 3, which now requires merely 2 points of magical energy for each shot. This adjustment makes it feasible for even warriors to wield the AK as their primary weapon. Enhancing an AK necessitates 600 goblins. And given the current number of goblin projections in Lu Yu's summoning space, augmenting over 100 weapons poses no challenge. He promptly took the fortified AK and returned to the courtyard. At that moment, Wu Tianju lay sprawled on the table, while Bao Fu rested on the floor, both sound asleep. After several consecutive days and nights of rigorous research, their exhaustion was palpable, having finally succeeded in crafting a functional firearm. Their elation was overshadowed by an overwhelming fatigue, leading them to succumb to slumber. Lu Yu chose not to disturb them. Instead, he left the upgraded AK behind along with a note. Recognizing that these two would likely sleep for an extended period, he understood it was impractical to wait for them. As he stepped out of the Lord's Manor, a dialogue box appeared, revealing a message from Li Wei. Brother Lu, the second office has appointed a new official office director. When might you be available for a meeting? We need to discuss matters concerning the Dwarven tribe. Chapter 367. Reluctance to write. The efficiency of the Huan Bureau is remarkable. Within 2 hours, the director of the second office had been replaced. Lu Yu sat in the castle's reception room, facing Li Wei and a man named Ji Chao. Ji Chao was the newly appointed director of the second office, and unlike the previous director, He Zihua, his title bore no indication of being an interim position. Ji Chao appeared quite youthful, to the extent that Lu Yu perceived him as younger than his actual age. The elevation of such a young individual to the position of office director suggests that the higher-ups are indeed undergoing transformations in response to the impending abyss. Master Qingjiu, I must first extend my apologies on behalf of the second office for the previous situation, Ji Chao stated. Lu Yu waved his hand dismissively. I understand. That was a personal issue. She neither represented the second office nor the Huan Bureau. Li Wei chuckled. CG. I told you Brother Lu is not difficult to communicate with. Lu Yu pursed his lips. The main issue was the former director, He Zihua. She was merely an acting director, and according to tradition, anyone holding such a title, who commits inappropriate actions, is regarded as solely responsible for personal errors. Your office would not acknowledge it as a broader issue. Brother Lu, you speak the truth, huh? Li Wei directly interrupted Lu Yu's words, having discerned Lu Yu's considerable dissatisfaction with He Zihua. However, this matter could not be openly discussed, especially not by outsiders. Let us instead turn our attention to your journey to the Dwarven clan, he suggested, pulling Lu Yu back from a perilous edge, disregarding the words that remained unspoken. I, along with Xiao Ji and several senior officials, have deliberated on the situation regarding Jinchang City. As long as we steadfastly deny any wrongdoing, the Dwarven clan will have no choice but to remain silent. Although Jinchang City is classified as a secondary stronghold for them, its population is merely in the hundreds of thousands, which hardly qualifies as a significant city. Furthermore, their losses amounted to only around 1,000 city defenders. So in the grand scheme of things, this incident is not particularly grave. Lu Yu, disinterested in further entanglement with He Zihua's affairs, nodded in agreement. Li Wei's assessment aligned closely with his own thoughts. After all, the demise of Jinchang City was merely a consequence of a certain withered willow, and held no relevance to him. Moreover, since returning from the other races, Lu Yu had not donned the golden mask for quite some time. Matters lacking evidence simply do not exist. Ji Chao remarked. Based on the intelligence we've gathered from the world, we further probed into the matter. Jinchong City is merely a facade presented by the Dwarven clan. That faction of dwarves seeks to maintain a position of neutrality. However, with the abyss impending, once the racial barriers are breached, no race can truly remain neutral. Essentially, it is our demonstrated strength that has failed to instill confidence and fear in the Dwarven clan. Lu Yu succinctly addressed the crux of the issue. Both Li Wei and Ji Chao nodded in agreement, stating, "We share this perspective. History has consistently illustrated that those nations claiming neutrality during wartime ultimately engage in various forms of involvement. The Dwarven clan possesses the richest mineral resources and the most advanced weaponry in the entire abyss. Thus, we must endeavor to draw them to our side as early as possible." Master Qingjio, they continued, "We propose that upon your entry into the Dwarven clan, you should, at the earliest opportunity, showcase our might, allowing them to witness our strength. Only then will there be a chance for these self-proclaimed shrewd dwarves to collaborate with us. In truth, our human race remains somewhat lacking in power. Not only do we fall short compared to the ancient strong clans of the Netherworld, but we also have considerable distance to cover in comparison to the Dwarven clan." Li Wei's expression turned bittersweet as he concluded, "Thus, dear Lu, you are all we have to present. Director Li, there is no need for such self-deprecation. Our human race is rapidly closing the gap. The Abyss's arrival is still some time away. I believe we can attain the strength of the Dwarven clan before that moment arrives. Furthermore, the racial barriers will not be immediately activated post-Abyss arrival, granting us additional time to catch up with those ancient strong clans." Li Wei sighed. "Let us hope that is indeed the case." Lu Yu's words did not provide much comfort to the director. He seemed to harbor even more concerns. However, he refrained from expressing them, and Lu Yu felt it inappropriate to inquire further, thus returning to the matter of the dwarf clan. "Just now, Director Ji mentioned, no. Esteemed Qingjio, you are older than I, and your strength and experience far surpass mine. Please, like Director Li, call me Xiaoji." Lu Yu found himself momentarily at a loss for words. "Director Li refers to me as Brother Lu, so I shall address you as Brother Ji in kind. That works as well." With the issue of titles settled, Lu Yu continued, "Brother Ji, what you mentioned earlier about my attitude towards joining the dwarf clan aligns perfectly with my intentions. I have recently acquired a third-tier bone dragon. Showcasing my strength should not pose a problem. My current concern lies with potential interference from other races." Lu Yu spoke of the third-tier bone dragon in a nonchalant manner, which surprised Li Wei and Ji Chao, as they had yet to receive intelligence regarding the frostbone dragon above the gathering city. Nevertheless, the fact that Lu Yu possessed a third-tier summon was undoubtedly a positive development. "Brother Lu, we have also considered the potential for interference from other races, and I can confirm that the Goblin clan has already begun to take action to prevent your entry into the Dwarf clan. Following the emergence of numerous talents from the novice village, the intelligence operations of the human race, under Li Wei's direction, had made remarkable strides. The current situation for humans was no longer the blind defensiveness of the past. Although the negotiations between the humans and dwarves were conducted discreetly, it was ultimately impossible to keep such matters hidden from everyone. Once the abyssal races became aware of this, they would undoubtedly be reluctant to allow the humans to grow stronger. At the very least, those races with an inherent animosity towards humans would not permit cooperation between the humans and the dwarves to proceed smoothly. Various intelligence and infiltration teams had already engaged in covert confrontations multiple times. Given Director Li's remarks, it seemed that preparations had been thoroughly arranged. Quite the contrary. Li Wei said, a hint of embarrassment on his face. "Brother Lu, you are well aware of the current situation of the human race. We are in dire need of high-level power. We have gathered intelligence indicating that the goblins have dispatched 2 second-tier beings. One of them you have encountered before, the abyssal archer Minghan. The other is named Fengyin, about whom we have been unable to find any information. However, being able to operate alongside Minghan suggests that its strength is certainly formidable, possibly even another abyssal class." Lu Yu clicked his tongue. The Goblin clan certainly had a high opinion of themselves. Chapter 368, Abyss and Lesser Abyss Abyssal Classes. Since entering the game 2 months ago, Lu Yu had encountered only a handful. He could count them on one hand. And now, the Goblin clan had dispatched 2 at once. Lu Yu suspected this was a form of retaliation from the Goblin General. Having devoured one of their legions in a single day, they now sent 2 abyssal classes to hunt him down. If the Goblin clan had sent 2, what of the other races? Would they also dispatch a few abyss professions to trouble him? Although it remains unclear why, the abyss professions of the other races have scarcely made an appearance. Yet, the Goblin tribe managed to send forth 2. Could it be possible for other races to follow suit and send 1 or 2 as well? With each of the 4 major races potentially contributing a couple of abyss professions, the total could easily approach double digits. The thought sent a shiver down Lu Yu's spine. Initially, having subdued the frostbone dragon had filled him with confidence, but now he found himself somewhat less composed. Not to mention that abyss archer, whose attack damage was calculated as a percentage. Even the third-tier frostbone dragon would struggle to withstand several of her arrows. "Little brother Lu, We will do our utmost to gather intelligence on whether Infeng and other alien races are sending representatives, but in other respects, we are truly powerless, Li Wei remarked, patting Lu Yu on the shoulder. His reluctance to assist Lu Yu stemmed from the current limitations of the Huan Bureau. Achieving their present capabilities had demanded all their effort. Lu Yu understood Li Wei's predicament. Compared to before, the Huan Bureau had already exceeded his expectations. All right, I will handle the rest, Lu Yu replied. When soldiers arrive, they must be met with soldiers, and when water comes, it must be dammed. Even if the abyss professions from the other races are formidable, I am not merely a product of hot air as a abyss summoner. Boss Qingjiu, if there are no issues on your end, I shall proceed to negotiate with the dwarven race today. I expect to officially engage with them by tomorrow or the day after, Lu Yu stated, nodding. Avoiding confrontation was not an option. It would be best to conclude matters with the dwarven race swiftly in order to attend to other pressing concerns. Li Wei and Ji Chao stood, shook Lu Yu's hand, and then departed. Lu Yu returned to his chair. It was midday, and he had half a day left to prepare before heading to the dwarven race. If not for the interference from the other races, he would have undoubtedly gone alone. But now that he was aware of at least 2 abyss professions that would intervene, he felt it would be reckless to do so. He had a general understanding of Ming Hun's abilities. The abyss archer was adept at offense, but lacking in defense. He could easily be dealt with by her. Yet he could also easily eliminate her. Lu Yu had already devised several strategies in his mind for confronting that gaunt old woman. The key concern was the individual known as Infeng. He only possessed a name, with no knowledge of their profession or talents. Save for the likelihood that they were also an abyss profession. This left him unable to prepare specifically against them, and he could only do his best, leaving the rest to fortune. Lu Yu despised this feeling. Facing adversaries beyond his control was the most wretched of situations. Yet, upon reflection, it seemed that since entering the abyss, he had encountered few enemies he could truly manage. He pulled up his friends list. If he could not venture alone, he would need to enlist assistance. He began to sift through his contacts. The pure-hearted youth must certainly be included, as a fellow denizen of the abyss. He is sure to play a significant role. Huan Tianxia can also be brought along. It has already been proven that he can traverse racial barriers. The most crucial aspect is that he possesses spatial abilities, which are undeniably invaluable whether for ambush or escape. As Lu Yu's fingers hovered over the icon of an endearingly charming young girl, he couldn't help but let out a sigh. To be candid, he greatly desired to include her. As a holy healer, she would undoubtedly be the nemesis of the abyssal archer. One deals percentage damage, while the other offers percentage healing. And the healing ratio of the holy healer surpasses the damage ratio of the abyssal archer. However, this young girl cannot cross the racial barrier. This is the most disheartening aspect for Lu Yu. Without the strongest healer to safeguard them, the peril of their journey through the dwarf realm escalates exponentially. This is absolutely intolerable for Lu Yu. Curse that racial barrier. It failed to block the undeserving while preventing the deserving from passage. No, Lu Yu must take Ru Meng Jiangnan with him. He could always confront the abyss about it. Besides, he had numerous inquiries to make. With this thought, Lu Yu rose from the sofa. While others may find it impossible to contact the abyss, he had the means to do so. Within his summoning space dwelled a small denizen of the abyss, a rebellious creature that had once claimed it could guide him through the abyss to save its own life. If it could traverse the abyss, it could certainly help locate the abyss itself. Not only was there the matter of Ru Meng Jiangnan, but he also wished to inquire why the pure-hearted youth's talents appeared so lackluster. Lu Yu was undeterred by the abyss's potential avoidance. After all, he had previously aided it in resolving the issue of the son of the underworld, preventing the racial barrier from collapsing prematurely, a favor still owed. Moreover, he possessed its offspring, the small denizen of the abyss. Lu Yu was uncertain of the relationship between the small denizen and the abyss. But if one were to assert that there was no connection, even the village elders would scoff at such a notion. Furthermore, his instincts suggested their relationship was not antagonistic. Thus, Lu Yu summoned the small denizen of the abyss. Upon hearing Lu Yu's intent to seek the abyss, the small denizen immediately conveyed an emotion of embarrassment. What? You don't know the abyss, do you? Or perhaps there is animosity? Not at all. The small denizen hesitated to respond. Lu Yu's gaze sharpened, urging it to speak without further delay. Feeling the weight of Lu Yu's scrutiny, the small denizen finally confessed. Actually, I share a mother-daughter relationship with the abyss. The small denizen's mention of a maternal bond revealed its gender. Indeed, it was female. Shouldn't a mother-daughter relationship be harmonious? Why the hesitation? I'm afraid my mother might harm me. Even a tiger does not eat its cubs. As I matured, my mother's strength began to wane. And I feared that once I truly grew up, she might meet her demise. The words of the little abyss took Lu Yu by surprise. He had not anticipated such a connection between the two. If that were the case, upon meeting the little abyss might indeed resolve this rebellious child. Although the little abyss constantly contemplated rebellion, she remained quite useful, and Lu Yu did not wish for her to vanish entirely. Chapter 369, Departing Early Master. If your intention is merely to transport individuals across the racial barrier to other races, there is no need to consult my mother. I am capable of that. I am aware of your capabilities, but how much do you truly know about the abyssal shadow assassins? Lu Yu's aspirations extended beyond merely escorting individuals across the racial divide. The crux of his inquiry pertained to the profession of the pure-hearted youth. The young girl may not have realized it herself, yet Lu Yu perceived that. As an abyssal profession, she was still rather weak. Upon hearing Lu Yu's question, the little abyss fell silent. The enhancement of the abyssal shadow assassin was not her doing, and she was unaware of the reasons behind it. However, the thought of meeting her mother was utterly unpalatable to her. It pertained to her very life, and there could be no ambiguity. This was the first time Lu Yu had seen such a resolute attitude from the little abyss. At that moment, threatening her with death would prove ineffective. As she perceived visiting her mother as a death sentence in itself, both options bore the specter of mortality, leaving no room for choice. Resigned, Lu Yu reluctantly abandoned the idea of seeking the abyss for the time being. Now, the list for the Dwarven clan included 4 individuals, including Lu Yu himself. As he continued to scroll through his friends' list, an ID named Mingshan appeared. Lu Yu had reclaimed his position on the level leaderboard. Yet this individual remained steadfastly in second place at level 68. If another person were to be included, Mingshan would undoubtedly be the optimal choice. However, Lu Yu had only met him once, and while Mingshan had expressed his willingness to assist Lu Yu at any time, the uncertainty of their mutual trust lingered. After thorough contemplation, Lu Yu ultimately refrained from opening a dialogue with Mingshan. With dreamy Jiangnan, the pure-hearted youth, and Huan Tianxia, along with himself, they possessed output. Healing, stealth, and escape, that should suffice. Lu Yu gathered the 3 into a group. His group list now boasted countless small groups. Each time they undertook a joint venture, the participants varied, necessitating the creation of a new group each time. This had become a customary practice. With the new group established, without requiring further elaboration from Lu Yu, the pure-hearted youth spoke up. Big brother, where are we off to this time for some fun? I suspect it pertains to the Dwarven clan. I overheard our director discussing it earlier, and I felt I was destined to be included. Are we indeed headed to the Dwarven clan? But I cannot traverse the racial barrier. Fear not. Big brother has brought you into the group, so there must be a way to guide you into the Dwarven clan. The pure-hearted youth held unwavering confidence in Lu Yu. Lu Yu did not feign mystery. He simply recounted the matter of the minor abyss. Although it would be preferable for fewer individuals to be aware of its existence, the individuals present would inevitably learn of it in due course. Moreover, they were all trustworthy allies, so there was little harm in informing them in advance. A brief silence enveloped the chat group. Lu Yu could easily surmise the myriad expressions that adorned their faces. These individuals were already privy to the truths of the abyss. And the sudden emergence of a minor abyss was undoubtedly a shocking revelation. Let us convene in the first conference room of the gang shortly. We shall first pay a visit to the Dwarven clan. Are we heading there now? Director G has yet to finalize matters with the dwarves. It matters not. The timing is inconsequential, Lu Yu replied nonchalantly. Perhaps the Hua and Bureau regarded the dwarves with a sense of equality. But Lu Yu had adopted a more condescending stance towards them. Furthermore, with the knowledge that Goblin clan members would soon intervene, adhering to the established protocol was no longer viable. To seize greater initiative, one must break from convention and act unexpectedly. A few minutes later, the pure-hearted youth and others arrived in the conference room. Without needing a prompt from Lu Yu, they had replenished their potions and other supplies. Dreamlike Jiangnan even produced some practical potions to distribute among the group. Lu Yu gathered these potions before him, summoned the minor abyss, and had her enhance them before handing them out. A single abyss archer was already a formidable challenge, and the addition of a second-tier abyss class would render the situation perilous. One must be thoroughly prepared for what lay ahead. Huan Tianxia gazed at his backpack, brimming with potions, and could not help but lick his lips. To be honest, I am tempted to switch allegiances. I had merely heard whispers of the generous benefits afforded to your abyssal lord, but none had ever conveyed the extent of such advantages. A trivial affair, a trivial affair. Should you choose to join us, our leader would surely arrange a grand welcome, replied another. I never made such a claim. This lad is quite the troublemaker. It would be wise for you to remain at the Huan Bureau and continue to Vexley Way, cautioned Lu Yu. Currently, Huan Tianxia was a significant combat asset within the Huan Bureau. Should Lu Yu entice him away, Li Wei would undoubtedly pursue him with fervor. Upon hearing Lu Yu's words, Huan Tianxia immediately retorted, even if you extended an invitation, I would decline. At the Huan Bureau, my public funds alone amount to several thousand, surpassing the salaries of most. The pure-hearted youth quietly remarked, with the arrival of the abyss. Your public funds will soon be rendered useless. Huan Tianxia replied, and Lu Yu offered a slight smile, acknowledging the pure-hearted youth's ever-biting tongue. Very well. If there are no further preparations required, let us depart. With Lu Yu's command, the jovial banter ceased. He summoned the minor abyss, which had consumed sufficient energy as per his instructions and had grown considerably in size. The crowd was filled with curiosity as they gazed at the small abyss, which they had only heard tales of before, but now beheld with their own eyes. Yet, this small abyss bore an uncanny resemblance to a black hole. Take us to the Dwarven realm, commanded the master. Very well, my lord, please select your landing point. Suddenly, Lu Yu recalled his first encounter with the Dwarven realm, the desolate city of scavengers. Even under the most arduous conditions, The human projections there had valiantly resisted the onslaught of the dwarves. After the destruction of Golden Steel City, he wondered how they fared now. Lu Yu chose the location of the scavenger city. The entrance in the center of the small abyss gradually expanded. My lord, upon entering, you will find an exit radiating white light. Stepping through it will lead you to the scavenger city. This process closely resembled his previous traversal through the abyss utilizing a bug, albeit without the need for the Abyssal Eye's assistance. Leading the way, Lu Yu harbored no concerns about the small abyss playing tricks on him. Ever since its summoning, his finger had remained poised over the annihilation button, ready to obliterate the abyss should anything amiss occur. However, this time, the rebellious entity displayed no cunning. After Lu Yu stepped inside, the pure-hearted youth and others followed closely, with Ru Ming Jiangnan protected in the center. Among the four, only Ru Ming Jiangnan had never traversed this path before. The surrounding void instilled a sense of unease. Yet the distant, glowing exit offered a glimmer of hope. Chapter 370, Scavenger City and the Coalition City. Before long, Lu Yu and his companions reached the exit. As Lu Yu stepped out, the environment around them abruptly transformed, the void dissipating. A whirlwind of yellow sand and swirling dust enveloped the area, which appeared even more hostile than during their last visit. The pure-hearted youth and the others emerged as well, the exit behind them vanishing, and the small abyss returning to its original size. Pleased with its performance, Lu Yu retracted the abyss back into the summoning space and permitted it to consume 2 goblin projections. This was a reward, allowing it to store energy without the need for alternative means of expulsion. This act nearly brought the small abyss to tears of gratitude. After such a long time, it finally had the opportunity to accumulate its own energy. Sensing the abyss's emotions, Lu Yu couldn't help but click his tongue, feeling as though he appeared to the abyss as a miser. Observing the small abyss, savoring the 2 goblin projections within the summoning space, Lu Yu suddenly felt a wave of physical discomfort. He decisively exited the summoning space, redirecting his focus to the outside world. They now stood before the gates of the scavenger city. However, unlike their previous visit, this time, there were no guards outside the scavenger city. Moreover, most of the surrounding walls had collapsed, stained with blood, presenting a scene of ruin and desolation. Lu Yu furrowed his brow, suddenly beset by an ominous premonition. The 4 of them hastily entered Scavenger City, which was stained crimson with blood, the lifeless bodies of city guards scattered everywhere. The city had recently endured a fierce battle, and no soldier remained unscathed. Lu Yu hurried to the location of the Lord's mansion. The entrance was already choked with corpses, and he struggled to step inside. In the vast courtyard of the Lord's mansion stood a burly man, gripping a sword with both hands. He was soaked in blood, the blade propped against the ground. His posture erect, eyes brimming with fury and resentment. Was this the city lord Wu Zongyi? The innocent youth attempted to call out his name, but Lu Yu shook his head. He was already dead. Wu Zongyi was not only the lord of Scavenger City, but also the ultimate boss of this map. It was evident that this area had recently been cleared. The dwarves would have no reason to slay mere minions while neglecting the final boss. Let us depart. Lu Yu did not enter the mansion, nor did he attempt to collect the remains of Wu Zongyi and his soldiers. They were merely projections. It was a commonplace occurrence for the dwarves to level up by slaying these projections, just as the human race would eliminate other wild creatures in the map for experience. Yet, for reasons unknown, Lu Yu felt a heavy sensation in his heart. Although it was a rational and lawful act, he still sensed an undercurrent of anger within him. Brother, shall we not avenge them? The innocent youth exclaimed, filled with righteous indignation. Lu Yu shook his head. Avenge? We do not even know who committed this atrocity. Even if we found out, they merely killed projections, not the real entities. There is no justification for revenge. Let us go. Brother, will we simply let this go? If you are worried about exposing our identities, I can conceal it with my innate abilities. Lu Yu remained resolute. Revenge will not resolve the issue. Even if we eradicate the dwarves responsible for this massacre, it will not change the fact that this is a leveling ground. More dwarves will come to scourge Scavenger City again. Let us depart. We will address this matter thoroughly. The group exited Scavenger City in silence, their spirits notably subdued. Boss, where shall we go now? Ru Ming Jiang timidly inquired. To Wanjin Mountain. Lu Yu produced the map that Wu Zongyi had given him previously. Although this map had already been integrated into the system, he still felt compelled to bring it out. He pointed to the location of Wanjin Mountain on the map, showing it to Hua and Tianxia. Let us see if we can directly access the spatial coordinates at this location. Hua and Tianxia confirmed the coordinates, thrusting his weapon forward. As if to vent the fury within his heart, the space began to shatter gradually, revealing yet another city. After witnessing the grim sight of Scavenger City, the group's expressions darkened further upon seeing another city. Yet, the gloom in Lu Yu's heart began to dissipate. No one understood this location better than he did. For individuals traversed through a rift in space, unveiling a magnificent city before the spectators. A sense of familiarity washed over me. As dreaming Jiangnan gazed at the grand city before her, she found herself momentarily lost in thought, feeling as though she had encountered this place before. Ji City? The innocent youth had already pieced it together. Lu Yu nodded affirmatively. Indeed, this is the projection of Ji City. The group exchanged perplexed glances. Why is there a projection of Ji City here? This area was originally part of the malevolent map of Ji Village. However, with the recent upgrade of Ji Village to Ji City, it has correspondingly transformed into a secondary main city. Lu Yu spoke with a hint of pride in his voice. His mentor was truly remarkable. He had never witnessed a malevolent map upgraded to such an extensive scale. The innocent youth and the others widened their eyes, struggling to believe it. Yet, Lu Yu had already moved to the forefront. Let us venture into the city and also gain insight into the current state of the dwarven race. Lu Yu held unwavering confidence in his mentor, whether regarding the entity or its projection. Outside the gates of Ji City, several gatekeepers stood resolutely. Upon noticing the approaching figures, they instinctively tightened their grips on their spears, but soon displayed expressions of confusion. Brother, those silhouettes, do they not resemble humans? Indeed, they truly appear to be human. Look at the man leading the way. He seems quite familiar. I remember now, he visited not long ago. He is, after all, the apprentice of the city Lord's true form. What? It really is him. Should we let him in? Of course. What do you think you're doing by blocking the young lord? But we cannot simply allow him entry. What? You want to extort a toll? I warn you. If the city lord catches wind of this, you might as well forget about staying here. Extort a toll? Nonsense. We must put on an act of questioning him first before graciously inviting the young lord in. Letting him in without due process would reflect poorly on our diligence. Right. The elder brother is indeed wise. What are you two whispering about? The two lords are discussing important matters. I expect you to stand guard diligently today. Two lords? Yes, the true form of the city lord has just arrived. As the gatekeepers conversed, Lu Yu had already reached the threshold of Ji City. Upon overhearing their dialogue, he halted in surprise. Sun Hanyu's true form has come. Why is she wandering about instead of staying with the human race? After encountering numerous third and fourth transitions, Lu Yu realized that while the second transition's strength was commendable among the abyssal races, it was insufficient for survival. Even Sun Hanyu, possessing a multitude of second transition summoned beasts, was no exception. To illustrate, the Frostbone Dragon in Lu Yu's possession could easily vanquish Sun Hanyu and all her summoned creatures. Unlike Lu Yu and his fellow players, Sun Hanyu could not resurrect upon death. She is now an NPC. Death is final. In this scenario, Lu Yu fervently wishes that his mentor would refrain from wandering about aimlessly. He even harbors a tinge of regret for having bestowed a piece of the abyssal eye upon Sun Hanyu. Lu Yu swiftly approached the city gates, where two guards attempted to halt him with a token gesture, only to be brusquely pushed aside by Lu Yu. A few innocent youths followed closely behind him. Hastily entering the city, the grand city of Ju-Yi did not project all players, rendering it somewhat desolate. Lu Yu paid little heed to the sights within Ju-Yi and instead hastened towards the Lord's manor. If circumstances permitted, he would have preferred to ride his bone dragon directly there. However, recalling the destruction wrought by the dragon previously, he discarded that notion. As he arrived at the entrance of the manor, Lu Yu beheld four slender legs swaying at the door, where two identical, aloof ladies simultaneously turned their gazes upon him. For reasons unknown, Lu Yu suddenly recalled the last time he had sought out Sun Hanyu too prematurely, resulting in her sleepily emerging from her slumber, presenting an unexpected spectacle. His face flushed at the memory. Sun Hanyu, noticing Lu Yu's change in demeanor, seemed to have a similar recollection, her cheeks reddening as well. Sun Hanyu's projection glanced at her original self, then back at Lu Yu, her delicate brows furrowing in confusion. What is going on with you two? There is not something between you, is there? What could possibly be between us? He came running here, without riding the dragon. You lost the bet. Accept your defeat and hand over that map. Don't divert the topic. The way you both look, it seems there is indeed something. An old cow indulging in tender grass, a teacher-student romance. TSK. Romance? Hand over the map, quickly. First, tell me how far things have progressed between you two. Kisses? Hugs? Up and down. You're finished. I want to let you off the hook. Humph. I am your projection. What you know, I know. You possess, I possess. Who fears whom? As Lu Yu observed his two mentors on the verge of pulling each other's hair, he hurriedly interjected. Mentor, what brings you here? Shouldn't Ju-Yi be bustling with activity right now? Oh, I delegated my responsibilities to Chief Fairy and Sun Miao, asking them to handle matters temporarily while I took a stroll to clear my mind. A stroll? Then what was that about the map? Map? Did I mention anything about a map? Lu Yu shot Sun Hanyu an exasperated glance, fixing his gaze upon her in silence. After a prolonged pause, Sun Hanyu could no longer withstand Lu Yu's stare. Alright, fine. I intended to explore the Goblin clan and other major clans to level up. I don't have a map, so I sought to ask that little brat for one. Sun Hanyu's projection, who had remained silent until now, promptly expressed her discontent. You are me, and I am you. If you insult me, you insult yourself. Sun Hanyu replied. Lu Yu furrowed his brow tightly. You plan to level up in the four major clans? Are you seeking death? Can't you just find a moderately powerful clan? The four major races possess a higher rank, and within their realms, the pace of leveling up is considerably accelerated. However, it also means that demise comes swiftly. Lu Yu, with a hint of irritation, remarked, are you aware that the four races have been consistently targeting the human race? By charging in there, are you not merely delivering yourself as a feast for them? especially since you have chosen the goblin race first. You are well aware of their notorious lasciviousness. Hold on, hold on. I have yet to venture forth. His mentor interjected. Why do you speak as if I am already without a path to follow? Between us, who is the mentor and who is the disciple? Regardless of your role, you shall not proceed. You yourself sauntered through the underworld, so why should I be barred from going? Are we not the same? Should I perish? I can simply return to the spring, but what of you? I am indifferent to that, Sun Hanyu insisted, her stubbornness unwavering. Yet, Lu Yu had already summoned a small abyss, commanding, open a passage to the human realm. The small abyss yawned wide, revealing an exit leading to the human race. Return the eye of the abyss to me. Lu Yu extended his hand towards Sun Hanyu. Her eyes widened in shock. Are you attempting to reverse the celestial order? Will you hand it over? If not, I shall join with City Lord Sun to seize it by force. The City Lord Sun she referenced was her own projection. And from their previous exchange, Lu Yu discerned that the projection also wished to protect its original form from danger. Feeling the weight of two malevolent gazes upon her, Sun Hanyu begrudgingly surrendered the eye of the abyss. Dealing with her own projection was already a challenge. With the addition of her precious disciple, she felt utterly outmatched. Lu Yu accepted the eye of the abyss and stowed it in his backpack. Very well, let us return. If you wish to level up. Once I have tamed some summoned beasts for you to slay, you should gain experience as well. With a reluctant glare directed at Lu Yu, Sun Hanyu stepped into the small abyss. Watching her return to the human realm, Lu Yu finally exhaled in relief. His mentor truly was a source of endless concern. Behind Lu Yu, the innocent youth and others gaped in disbelief at the scene they had just witnessed. After all, that was their elder brother's mentor. Yet it seemed that the elder brother had treated his mentor as if she were merely a wayward disciple. Elder brother, what kind of relationship do you have with your mentor? What sort of relationship? The kind where the three of us could be together. Lu Yu shot a glance at the innocent youth, disinclined to engage in conversation. Are you so bold before your mentor? Came the voice of Sun Hanyu's projection, who lounged against the wall, observing Lu Yu with playful interest. Not really. I have recently acquired an adult bone dragon, Lu Yu replied, displaying a warm smile. In this day and age, it is merely a matter of who wields greater power. Well, speak freely. What brings you to seek me out? Nothing much. Simply came to see how you are faring. But don't waste my time. Why did you bring people to the dwarven territory? Are you here for a team-building exercise? Chapter 372. Departure from the craftsman god mountain. Lu Yu chuckled softly, acknowledging that there was indeed a matter at hand. He elaborated on the potential collaboration between the human race and the dwarves, and then mentioned the dispatch of two abyssal professionals from the goblin tribe. At first, Sun Hanyu's projection listened with keen interest, nodding along. But her expression shifted when she heard about the two second-tier abyssal professionals. Two second-tier abyssal professionals? Indeed. We have nearly deciphered the talents of one, while the other remains an enigma. Sun Hanyu's projection was well aware of the capabilities of abyssal professions, for she had a vivid example before her. Even without reaching the second tier, Lu Yu's strength already surpassed hers. It is worth noting that Sun Hanyu, as a summoner, was capable of taking on 10 foes single-handedly. So, you wish for me to assist you? Lu Yu nodded obediently. If there was anyone among the second tier who could contend with an abyssal profession, it would undoubtedly be a summoner like Sun Hanyu. Sun Hanyu's projection pursed her lips. No wonder you so forcefully pushed my true self back to the human realm. You did not wish for her to take risks, did you? Lu Yu, caught in the act of revealing his thoughts, felt no embarrassment, merely smiling faintly. Given Sun Hanyu's character, upon learning that Lu Yu was to face two second-tier abyssal professionals, she would certainly remain to protect herself. However, given the nature of that battle, Lu Yu had no confidence in his own abilities and could not allow his mentor to risk herself. TSK, do you not regard us projections as beings? You fear for your teacher's safety yet show no concern for my demise? Lu Yu maintained his smile. To protect my mentor is to protect you as well. Sun Hanyu's projection let out a delicate huff, offering no rebuttal. Lu Yu spoke the truth. As long as Sun Hanyu's true self remained alive, her projection could perish and eventually be revived in full vigor after some time. Very well, I shall reluctantly accompany you. For who could refuse the precious disciple of my true self? Lu Yu's smile blossomed even brighter, knowing that this projection would surely acquiesce. By the way, what was that map you mentioned to my mentor earlier? I possess several maps of foreign races. Although they lack in detail, they are still serviceable. Do you wish to have them? Indeed. Lu Yu responded without hesitation. Maps of any kind, especially those of foreign races, were invaluable. Without a map, traversing the territories of alien races would leave one utterly blind, potentially leading them into perilous situations. It is worth noting that last time, Lu Yu had obliterated a second-tier main city to acquire a map of the dwarves. Just like your mentor, you covet fine treasures, Sun Hanyu's projection remarked. Yet she produced several maps nonetheless. Lu Yu examined them one by one, discovering maps of the goblin tribe, the dwarven race, the gremlins, and even the enigmatic elven race. No wonder Sun Hanyu had such a smooth experience when visiting the elven tribe last time. It seemed she had procured the elven map from this projection. The projection gathered these maps, originally intended for the opportunity to present to the human race. She had spent years confined to the realm of evil maps, seldom venturing outside. Thus, possessing these maps served little purpose for her. Their sole significance perhaps lay in augmenting the human's chances of victory. As each map unfurled, Lu Yu's system map brimmed with additional information, a distinct advantage of being a player. As it negated the need for personal memorization, one simply needed to input the data into their system. Once all information was meticulously updated, Lu Yu cautiously stowed the maps into his backpack. These maps could undoubtedly be classified as strategic resources. In times past, Liu Bei's successful conquest of Chengdu was significantly aided by the maps presented by Zhang Song. Observing Lu Yu effortlessly place the maps into his backpack without so much as a word of thanks, Sun Hanyu's projection couldn't help but purse her lips, somewhat miffed, and remarked, "Why not take a look at what else might catch your fancy here to take along?" "All right," Lu Yu replied, preparing to browse around casually. "Are you truly intent on emptying my inventory?" she teased. Lu Yu merely chuckled, remaining silent. In his eyes, Sun Hanyu's projection, though not quite the same as her true self, was still among the closest to him. It was precisely for this reason he had summoned the abyssal creature in her presence. Bringing along Sun Hanyu's projection was the primary objective of his visit to Wanjin Mountain. With that goal accomplished, he could now prepare to visit the dwarves. Ji Chao had mentioned he would make contact with the dwarven clan first. Yet Lu Yu had entered their domain ahead of time, rendering him unable to receive any updates from Ji Chao. It was uncertain how the negotiations fared, what time had been agreed upon, or the designated meeting place. However, that was of little consequence. They had already established a high-profile approach, leveraging their influence. Regardless of the agreements Ji Chao had made with the dwarves, it was now a matter of directly seeking out the highest echelons of dwarven society. Lu Yu was well aware of the location of the god of Craftsman Mountain. "Lord Sun, do you have anything else to prepare? If not, shall we embark?" "I'm at your command," replied Sun Hanyu's projection without objection, while the pure-hearted youth and his companions were already geared up for departure. Lu Yu summoned the Frostbone Dragon, its massive form coiling above the City of Unity, a tail extending toward the ground. Lu Yu was the first to ascend, followed closely by the others. With the bone dragon utilizing its wind attribute for protection, the group traversed its back as if walking on solid ground. Soon, they all reached the pinnacle of the dragon's head. At Lu Yu's command, the bone dragon was enveloped in a tempest, soaring skyward. It was the first time the pure-hearted youth and his companions had ridden a dragon, their exhilaration unmistakable. "Brother, I can barely feel any turbulence. Nor is there the biting chill of the wind. Dragons inherently possess the wind attribute. Otherwise, do you think this bone dragon could fly, with just those two porous wings?" Sun Hanyu gazed at the skeletal dragon, feeling a twinge of envy. Yaya had yet to reach maturity and could not bear such a multitude. Lu Yu remained silent, harboring an unsettling premonition. There had been persistent rumors of two second-tier abyssal practitioners from the Goblin clan poised to ambush them, yet those individuals had yet to materialize. While it was true that Lu Yu and his companions had set off ahead of schedule, he found it implausible that the Goblin clan, one of the four great races, had not noticed their presence. The Goblins' intent was to thwart the alliance between the human and dwarven races. It was inevitable that they would attempt to ambush Lu Yu and his company along the way. The journey thus far had been remarkably peaceful, but now, as Lu Yu approached the Divine Artisan Mountain, which was their ultimate destination, it seemed the goblins would choose the path to the mountain as the ideal location for an ambush. Chapter 373. Response from the Divine Artisan Mountain. Atop the Divine Artisan Mountain, the golden bell tolled once more. The bell rang 7 times, summoning all second-tier dwarves to the grand hall of the main peak. The last time the bell had sounded 7 times was the previous month, when Golden Steel City had been reduced to rubble. Unlike the confusion that had prevailed during that incident, this time everyone was acutely aware of the reason behind the summons. The foremost human was approaching. The matter of whether to collaborate or even forge an alliance with the humans had been deliberated countless times within the halls of the Divine Artisan Mountain, yielding differing conclusions each time. This issue was a matter of life and death for the entire dwarven race, and even the few esteemed Golden Hammers dared not reach a definitive verdict. Hence, Lu Yu's visit to negotiate had arisen. The dwarves were less concerned with the identity of the visitor as the foremost human and more intrigued by the extent of the abyssal summoner's power. The devastation of Golden Steel City remained a contentious topic, with no definitive consensus reached, although the majority believed the abyssal summoner was responsible. There was also testimony from the investigation team regarding Wang Dazue. All members of the investigation team swore that at that time, Wang Dazue had been entirely unrestrained by any person or force. Consequently, the destruction of Golden Steel City became a significant leverage point, but failed to sway the collective decision. Currently, their primary focus was the capability of the human abyssal summoner. Although most within the clan were reluctant to acknowledge it, the clan's ancient texts could not be refuted. In ancient times, the dwarven race had consistently followed the humans, specifically a certain abyssal summoner. After the death of that summoner, the dwarves continued to align themselves with humans for several generations, primarily providing them with equipment and war apparatuses. However, following the demise of that summoner, the humans began their decline. Without the stabilizing presence of an abyssal summoner, they were swiftly consumed and fragmented by foreign races. While other abyssal summoners occasionally rose to prominence, their strength inexplicably paled in comparison to that of the initial generation. Although they briefly brought a semblance of resurgence to the human race, it ultimately failed to halt their decline. As of now, the new generation of humans has become the last race to descend into the abyss. The dwarves summoned Qingjiu with the fundamental aim of assessing whether this generation's abyss summoner possesses the potential of the original. Should Qingjiu prove to be no different from the progenitor, the resurgence of humanity would become nearly inevitable. The events surrounding Wanjin Mountain have made the dwarves acutely aware that even if they wish to remain neutral, the major clans would not consent. After all, the dwarves are merely a race of moderate strength, yet they command the finest forging techniques and weaponry craftsmanship. Innocent men may suffer for possessing valuable treasures. With this reality, the four great races would never allow them to remain aloof. Rather than align themselves with one of the four great races, it would be wiser to directly support the humans. If this abyss summoner possesses the strength of the progenitor, the resurgence of humanity is assured. And as the earliest supporters of the humans, their own strength and status would undoubtedly rise, surpassing that of their ancestors. Providing aid during humanity's darkest hour is akin to offering salvation. Of course, all of this hinges on whether this abyss summoner is worthy of their risk. Should Qingjiu resemble the so-called children of revival from previous generations, the dwarves would need to deliberate further. They have learned from bitter experience. Generations ago, a dwarf left their kin to follow an abyss summoner by the surname of Sun, and to this day, there has been no word of his fate. Reports indicate that this abyss summoner has long since perished, and those dwarves who followed him have never returned. Among those dwarves was a third-tier weapon master, causing a decline in the dwarven craftsmanship that has yet to fully recover. Within the grand hall of the artisan temple, a multitude of second-tier dwarves gathered. Unlike previous assemblies, this time the seat of honor had transformed from one chair into three. Beside each of the three chairs rested a golden hammer, representing the three third-tier dwarves, the pinnacle of dwarven prowess. As the last second-tier dwarf entered the hall, the massive doors slowly closed, enveloping the chamber in profound silence. After a moment, the golden hammer seated in the center spoke. The humans have made contact with us. That abyss summoner will soon arrive. Xiaofeng, please share the latest developments. Xiaofeng, bearing a silver hammer, stepped forward from the crowd. He is the supreme leader of the Dwarven Intelligence Department and previously stood here to relay information regarding the incident in Jinchang City. On this occasion, he similarly retrieved his silver-edged notebook and approached everyone present. Today, or more precisely, yesterday, the director of the second office of the Huan Bureau, representing the official agency of the human race, sent envoys to negotiate with us regarding the arrival of the renowned Qingjiu, a human abyss summoner, into our dwarven realm. Given that the crossing of racial boundaries results in random landings, we had not established a specific reception point with the human race. However, current reports indicate that Qingjiu has indeed entered our dwarven territory, having been spotted in the Wanjin Mountain area. Accompanying him are three humans, an abyssal shadow assassin, a master healer, and a standard warrior, likely possessing unique abilities. Presently, he is hastening towards our crafting god mountain, expected to arrive in approximately 3 hours. Having already passed 2 of those hours, there remains about half an hour until his arrival. It appears he possesses a map of our dwarven lands, which preliminary analysis suggests may have originated from the summoner at Wanjin Mountain, who is currently accompanying Qingjiu. Upon hearing the term Wanjin Mountain Summoner, many dwarves gasped in astonishment. Among the more than 100 second-tier dwarves present, over half had confronted that summoner in battle, and none had emerged victorious alone, even in a group skirmish. It would require a dozen or more dwarves to barely contend with her. With the summoner in tow, many dwarves who had harbored thoughts of intimidating Qingjiu began to reconsider their strategies. Senior Xiaofeng, you mentioned that Qingjiu hails from Wanjin Mountain. It is far too distant for him to reach Crafting God Mountain in just 3 hours, one dwarf interjected. Xiaofeng's gaze swept across the assembly as he continued. This is precisely what I wish to convey. They are traveling on a frostbone dragon, which has reached adulthood at level 120, third tier. It is certain that Qingjiu has tamed it, making it his summoned beast. A profound silence enveloped the hall as the second-tier dwarves realized their earlier astonishment had been premature. The Abyss Summoner had evidently attained the capability to tame a third-tier bone dragon. Among those present, aside from the 3 golden hammers, none could hope to match Qingjiu in combat. Defeating him would only be feasible through a combined assault, contingent solely upon Qingjiu deploying that singular bone dragon. The notion of additional summoned beasts alongside it left the assembly hesitant to contemplate further. Those who had considered demonstrating their prowess to Qingjiu now felt grateful they had not yet acted. Even the 2 golden hammer dwarfs seated on either side exhibited noticeable shifts in expression, clearly taken aback by the revelation of Qingjiu's possession of a third-tier bone dragon. Each of them felt an unsettling uncertainty about confronting such a formidable creature alone. Only through their combined strength could they hope to vanquish it. Yet, even if they succeeded in defeating the dragon, should it choose to flee, they would be utterly powerless to prevent its escape. The dwarves excel in the art of forging, yet they are not particularly skilled in combat. While they cannot be deemed the weakest among all races, their strength is hardly formidable. It is said that their ancestors, wielding ancient weaponry, could stand toe-to-toe with the mighty dragons. Alas, that technology has long been lost, its practitioners vanishing alongside the legendary abyssal summoner, who was accompanied by the elite elders of the clan. Presently, the stoic figure of the Golden Hammer reveals that he has long been aware of these tidings. Upon receiving this information, he had already resolved how to proceed. The human abyssal summoner, capable of subduing a third-tier bone dragon even before reaching the second tier, speaks volumes. According to the ancient texts of the dwarves, no so-called revitalizer has ever achieved such a feat. Regardless of any fortuitous encounters the summoner may have experienced in capturing the frostbone dragon, his inherent prowess cannot be diminished. The grand hall erupted into a cacophony of voices, over 100 participants speaking simultaneously, creating a resonant hum that filled the space. The Golden Hammer refrained from interrupting, patiently awaiting the conclusion of the discussions. This moment marked a pivotal point for all present to reassess the strength of the summoner and the standing of the dwarven race. Aside from the lords and guards stationed at the various secondary strongholds, the assembly comprised the pinnacle of the dwarven combatants and the very zenith of their authority. Their choices would determine the future trajectory of the entire dwarven race. Although the summoner had yet to arrive, the intelligence gathered thus far was already substantial. It was imperative for them to engage in thorough deliberation. Even if they could not reach a definitive conclusion, the outcome would not stray far from the truth. After several minutes, the din of conversation gradually subsided, while the figure of Chao Feng remained poised before the assembly, his notebook still open. Chao Feng, do you have further intelligence to share? Inquired a silver hammer, noting the young man's demeanor. Chao Feng nodded, and the hall fell silent. At this moment, any scrap of information regarding the summoner was of utmost importance. As all eyes returned to him, Chao Feng resumed. The four great races do not wish for us to ally with humanity. They have dispatched 2 second-tier abyssal professionals to eliminate the summoner. Our scouts have confirmed that these 2 abyssal beings have entered our territory, yet upon their arrival, they swiftly retreated. Their speed is remarkable, and our forces cannot keep pace, rendering us unable to ascertain their exact location. Based on our experience, it is likely they intend to ambush the summoner and his group en route. The mention of 2 second-tier abyssal professionals caused the assembly to exchange glances, fully aware of the gravity of those words. The distinction between the second tier and its predecessors is profound. The abyssal classes of the second transition may indeed possess formidable strength, yet the individuals present here are largely capable of holding their own. Well, with the exception of the abyssal summoner. However, the abyssal classes of the second transition, even when united in threes, would not dare to confront them head-on. Among the 4 great races, 2 have mobilized this time, for reasons unknown. The abyssal classes of the 4 great races have seldom made an appearance. On rare occasions when one does emerge, it is regarded as a significant event. This time, astonishingly, 2 have come forth simultaneously. The hall fell into a chilling silence, starkly contrasting the previous clamor. The news delivered a profound shock to all the dwarves present. They had nearly resigned themselves to the conclusion of this visit from Qing Shui. Even the central figure, the gold hammer, sighed softly, having just learned this information, presumably acquired recently by Chao Feng. The dwarven race lacks abyssal classes. In fact, aside from the human race and the 4 great races, no other races possess such classes. The abyss has never shown interest in their kind. Now, that 2 second transition abyssal classes from the 4 great races have been dispatched to intercept, it is highly likely that Qing Shui will not reach his destination. A flicker of regret crossed the gold hammer's eyes. Had the 4 great races refrained from intervening, the dwarven race might have genuinely forged an alliance with the humans. For the dwarves, this represented an opportunity, as it would signify an alliance with the humans rather than subjugation. Just as he was about to express his lament, a resounding dragon's roar echoed outside the Craftsman Mountain. All within the hall were momentarily taken aback. A dragon's roar? There were no dragons in Craftsman Mountain. Could it be that the abyssal summoner had arrived? But how had he evaded the 2 second transition abyssal classes? While the crowd remained in a state of shock, the 3 leading gold hammers were the first to react. Quick, let us greet him at the entrance. Regardless of the circumstances, since Qing Shui had arrived at Craftsman Mountain, they must extend their courtesy. Figures rushed out of the hall, and as they stepped outside, they beheld a colossal skeletal dragon with its massive wings unfurled. Lu Yu gazed down at the gathering of dwarfs, his expression grave. He felt quite unsettled, for despite his heightened vigilance throughout the journey, he had not encountered those 2 abyssal classes. As he drew closer to Craftsman Mountain, he suddenly comprehended the intentions of the 2 goblins. They would not ambush him en route, for a mid-journey ambush might succeed in sending Qing Shui back to the humans this time. Yet as long as the dwarves retained the desire to ally with the humans, Lu Yu could easily return for a second or third attempt. What those 2 intended was to forcefully send Lu Yu back to the human race in full view of the dwarven leadership, making the dwarves witness firsthand that the humans harbored no genuine hope for resurgence. Lu Yu did not regard the assembly of dwarves below. Instead, he fixed his gaze upon the ceiling of the Craftsman Mountain Hall, where an elderly and a young goblin were locking eyes with him. Chapter 374. the battle Lu Yu beheld two goblins standing atop the Grand Hall. The dwarves, who had just fled from within, also caught sight of them. The leader, Gene Hammer, furrowed his brow in concern. Had the sake been intercepted en route? He could have feigned ignorance or claimed he had not yet had the chance to provide aid before the battle concluded. However, now the goblins stood before him, and on the sacred grounds of the dwarven race, the towering Craft God Mountain. The appearance of goblins here was an undeniable ultimatum for the dwarves. Should they assist the goblins and not the sake, any hope of forging an alliance with humanity would be irrevocably shattered. Sending emissaries to summon their representatives only to have them arrive and conspire with the goblins to slay the human envoy would be an affront to any race's honor. Conversely, aiding the sake at the expense of the goblins would compel the dwarves to ally with humanity, a prospect fraught with peril given the formidable nature of the four great races. Remaining neutral, refusing to assist either side, was not only contrary to the dwarves' current strategic direction, but would also be disfavored by both humanity and the four great races. At this moment, several members of the Gene Hammer clan were consumed with the desire to rend the goblins apart, as the choice of battleground left the dwarves without any time for further deliberation. While the dwarves were ensnared in their quandary, Lu Yu's gaze remained fixed on the young goblin. Unlike the ancient crone known as Ming Han, this goblin did not possess a humanoid form, but rather appeared in a vibrant green hue. Its skin, however, seemed to have been treated with something, giving it an unusually smooth and supple appearance. Standing there, it deliberately struck a pose it deemed attractive. To Lu Yu, a human, it elicited no admiration and was somewhat repulsive. Yet, he surmised that within goblin society, this figure might be considered quite handsome. After all, even Ma Yun was regarded as a handsome man. This self-absorbed goblin, known as Yin Feng, piqued Lu Yu's interest as he opened its attribute panel. Yin Feng, Abyssal Flow Painter, level 80 race, goblin as anticipated. Lu Yu could only discern the goblin's profession and level, with no other information, including skills, disclosed to him. The Abyssal Flow Painter was inherently a hidden profession, leaning towards supportive abilities, yet it also possessed one or two formidable attacks. The prefix Abyssal suggested that this vocation was anything but ordinary. The old crone observed Lu Yu and his companions, a sinister smile gradually spreading across her face. Previously, she had underestimated him, allowing him to close the distance and stripping her archer of its greatest advantage. This time, she vowed not to repeat that mistake and had distanced herself sufficiently from Lu Yu and his group. At this range, even if Lu Yu commanded the Frostbone Dragon to charge, it would be ample opportunity for her to evade. Lu Yu discreetly removed the Ring of Sorrow from his hand and passed it to Hua and Tianxia. The Ring of Emotional Woe had once absorbed the equipment youth that erupted from the spirit of the crying soul, bestowing upon it a remarkable effect, unrestrained, significantly reducing the cooldown of skills. The distance between both parties, particularly under the uncertainty of the Abyssal Flow Painter's abilities, rendered Hu and Tianxia's space-shattering skill exceedingly vital. While Yin Feng might serve as a formidable support, one should never underestimate the potency of offensive skills. Caution is paramount. Lu Yu discreetly confirmed the target to those behind him, suggesting they first eliminate the support, akin to the strategy of targeting the healer at the onset of a battle. The pure-hearted youth and his companions nodded slightly in agreement. As Hu and Tianxia grasped the ring, Yin Feng opposite brandished a large brush. The tip danced through the air, and it seemed as though something within the space shattered. In an instant, the colossal form of the Frostbone Dragon swayed slightly, hinting at a potential descent. A trace of regret crossed Lu Yu's face. He had intended for the opposing duo to focus on his previous subtle maneuver. Yet they had discerned that the Frostbone Dragon had unfurled its consciousness space. It was unclear what skill Yin Feng had employed, but it had effortlessly breached the consciousness space. The most critical aspect was his ability to instantly recognize the existence of the consciousness space, truly a testament to the prowess of an abyssal class. As the Frostbone Dragon's body trembled, Lu Yu and his companions vanished in an instant. The pure-hearted youth's innate skill enveloped them all in a state of stealth. This strategy had been devised when they had collectively assessed the capabilities of abyssal archers. The abyssal archer could manipulate arrows through sound, locking onto a target merely by uttering its name. The pure-hearted youth's stealth talent ensured absolute invisibility once engaged, allowing her to remain undetected even after attacking. With Lu Yu and his companion's disappearance, the Frostbone Dragon became the sole target. It seemed to have finally recovered from the backlash of its consciousness space being shattered. The dragon exhaled a torrent of breath, aimed squarely at the duo of Spirit of the Crying Soul and Yin Feng. Once more, Yin Feng lifted his brush, droplets of ink cascading from its tip and converging before him and Spirit into a massive shield. The dragon's breath struck the inky shield, as if plunging into an unfathomable freeze, vanishing without a trace. Yet, the encounter was far from over. Following the dragon's exhalation, the ink shield quivered, its ink morphing gradually into the visage of a colossal dragon. This dragon opened wide its maw and unleashed a frigid breath that mirrored the earlier assault of the Frostbone Dragon. With no time to evade and the cool down of its breath not yet expired, the Frostbone Dragon had no choice but to absorb the attack. Fortunately, The properties of the breath aligned with its own, inflicting minimal damage. As the ink dragon dissipated into the air, it became evident that this was merely a transient skill. With the gentle breeze at her side, Ming-hun remained indifferent to the bone dragon's assault. She raised her hands before her, and a colossal arrow materialized. Her lips barely moved. Target, clear wine. The enormous arrow swayed from side to side, but ultimately did not release. A change swept across Ming-hun's expression. She had never encountered such a situation. Even those assassins cloaked in stealth had been effortlessly locked onto by her arrows. Thus, when she had observed Lu Yu and the others vanish, she had felt no urgency. However, now, confronted with the failure of her arrow's targeting ability, she found herself gripped by panic. Meanwhile, Lu Yu, still cloaked in stealth, breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed the naive youth's stealth talent was superior. This was understandable, as stealth was the domain of assassins, particularly for abyssal shadow assassins. The true strength of an archer lay primarily in their output. Voice-controlled arrows could only be deemed an auxiliary talent. Little brat, I can no longer find them. Ming-hun's voice carried a hint of anxiety. Having previously battled Lu Yu and his companions, she knew that once they closed in, her fate would be sealed. Now, unable to ascertain their location, the dread of past demise surged within her once more. With a disdainful glance at Ming-hun, Yinfeng furiously wielded his brush, sending splatters of ink cascading around them, erecting a dense barrier of ink dots. Subsequently, the tip of Yinfeng's brush pointed towards the ground, and a pool of ink spread beneath them. The inky darkness enveloped Ming-hun's eyes. As she surveyed her surroundings, a spark of realization ignited within her. She saw 4 figures but failed to detect the assassin. They were approaching us. As Ming-hun spoke, for arrows had already been loosed. Lu Yu and his companions had no intention of dodging, having learned from prior encounters. They understood that once the abyssal archer's arrows were released, evasion was futile. Lu Yu had also heard Ming-hun's words. She claimed not to have spotted the naive youth. Yet he was merely beside them. This indicated that while Yinfeng's assistance allowed Ming-hun to perceive the positions of others, it failed to reveal the abyssal shadow assassin's presence. Naive one, proceed with your stealth. There's no need for additional support. As the words left his lips, each of Lu Yu's party members had already been struck by an arrow, their health diminished by 30 points. The staff of dreaming Jiangnan shimmered, enveloping each of them in a layer of healing magic. The naive youth dispelled the stealth status from the others, rendering himself invisible. Immediately thereafter, Huan Tianxia's spear tip pierced the air, fracturing the space before him, revealing Ming-hun and Yinfeng on the other side. Although the purpose of the ink dots surrounding the 2 goblins remained unclear, a wise individual would refrain from experimentation. As the space surrounding the 2 goblins was breached, the ink beneath their feet began to bubble like boiling water. The dense ink erupted around them, resembling a fireworks display. Simultaneously, the corpses of bone insects cascaded down at their feet. This scene caused Huan Tianxia and Sun Hanyu, who were poised to charge forward, to halt in their tracks. They had intended to breach the space for a surprise attack, only to discover that their adversary had already anticipated their move. To rush forward now would be tantamount to courting death. Lu Yu surveyed the ground littered with the corpses of bone insects, his teeth clenched in frustration. How intriguing that the ink beneath their feet possessed both warning and automatic defense capabilities. Even after the bone insects had been struck down, they remained unable to transcend the barrier of ink. Lu Yu found himself in a rather precarious situation. Indeed, the abyss painter was a profession fraught with challenges. If it were only Ming-hun, the battle would have reached its conclusion by now. Instead, they were ensnared in a war of attrition. A multitude of summoned beasts appeared atop the roof, unleashing a relentless barrage of magical attacks directed at the 2 goblins. Yet, all were thwarted by the ink spots surrounding them, rendering them incapable of inflicting any harm. Ming-hun paid no heed to the bone insect carcasses at her feet or the onslaught of spells. As the ink spread beneath her, her earlier anxiety dissipated. As long as the ink remained wet, her safety was assured. Arrows flew from her hands incessantly, each one siphoning away a significant portion of Lu Yu's health. Were it not for Ruming Jiangnan supporting Lu Yu's health from behind, he would have perished multiple times by now. Although the damage percentage of the arrows did not surpass the speed of his recovery, the frequency of Ming-hun's attacks was overwhelming. Occasionally, Lu Yu found it necessary to cast a healing spell on himself. It seemed as though Ming-hun had fixated solely on Lu Yu, directing all her assaults exclusively at him. Aside from the initial arrow used for marking, no further arrows targeted anyone else. Lu Yu remained active, summoning 2 blazing infernos beneath the goblin's feet, yet the flames were unable to penetrate the ink barrier. However, it became evident that the ink was gradually shrinking and losing its luster. The defense provided by that ink was not invincible. It would ultimately be worn down. As long as there was resistance, Lu Yu remained unperturbed. Compared to the consumption of resources, Ming-hun's attacks were evidently insufficient. Ming-hun finally recognized that her damage output fell short of Lu Yu's recovery rate, leading her to become increasingly anxious. Little brat, I need attack speed. What good are you to me? I still have to restrain this bone dragon. Yinfeng's tone was decidedly displeased. After all, the frostbone dragon was a 3rd-tier dragon. He had to balance the defense of two individuals while simultaneously restraining the dragon, leaving him somewhat beleaguered. Prior to this encounter, he had prepared himself mentally for the formidable Abyss Summoner, believing he could easily withstand the onslaught of tens of thousands of goblins. However, what truly vexed him was the sheer number of bone insects. In this brief span of time, he had already slain over 1 million bone insects. And the fact that these creatures possessed golden bodies made it even more taxing, as neutralizing their golden effect was what drained his ink the most. Had I known earlier, I would have continued to serve the Abyss. Nevertheless, ink has stained Minghun's hands. In an instant, Minghun's attack speed surged, and Lu Yu's health bar became erratic. Unfazed, Lu Yu, with one hand, still had many cards yet to play. With a swift motion, dozens of priests materialized around him, ensuring his health remained steadfastly above half. Once again, both sides found themselves in a stalemate. I will engage with Jiang Nan while you assist the Bone Dragon. Lu Yu swiftly altered his strategy. Unable to break through Minghun's defenses, he decided to apply pressure on Yinfeng first. The reason the two goblins had not shown signs of decline was primarily due to the protection offered by the ink wielded by Yinfeng. Once Yinfeng was dealt with, Minghun would prove to be manageable. Sun Hanyu, unable to contain herself any longer, leaped from the rooftop, quickly lifted by a pink whelp. Standing atop the young dragon, she unleashed a stream of draconic breath, which, alongside the frost dragon's breath, surged toward Yinfeng. Yinfeng once again raised his two shields. Though they were not as solid as before, they absorbed the draconic breath entirely. The shields then exchanged positions, releasing the two streams of breath. The frostbone dragon, startled by the fiery breath aimed at it, was about to react when a golden barrier appeared before it, blocking the flames entirely. At some point, a second-tier golden devourer emerged atop the rooftop. Sun Hanyu smiled. She could not allow her own apprentice to steal the limelight entirely, lest she lose face as a mentor. Chapter 375. The battle concludes with Sun Hanyu's arrival. The atmosphere of the battlefield transformed dramatically. Excluding the frostbone dragon, Lu Yu's summoned beasts clearly held a numerical advantage, while Sun Hanyu's summoned creatures excelled in quality. One by one, her second-tier summons emerged, overwhelming Yinfeng, who was already struggling. Had they been ordinary summons, Yinfeng might have managed to cope. However, each of Sun Hanyu's summons possessed unique and bizarre skills. Without the expertise afforded by his abyssal wandering artist class, he would have long since collapsed. Yet even now, he was under immense strain, forced to endure all the onslaught alone, even as an abyssal class. He could not withstand such relentless attacks. At this rate, he worried about how Qingjiu and the others were faring. He certainly could not hold out much longer. Old hag, if you don't take down one or two of them soon, we will both perish here today, Minghun exclaimed, equally anxious. She had already switched targets several times, yet none had yielded any substantial results. Regardless of which critical target she prioritized, the healer and a cadre of priests always managed to respond in time. Even if she were to miraculously slay Hua and Tianxiao once, the healer would inevitably resurrect him. The rain of arrows enveloped the goblin priests. Yet the sake master would soon summon new ones. This rendered her output formidable, yet she found herself unable to eliminate a single foe. The archers thrived on mobility, but the presence of an adversary wielding spatial skills rendered Minghun immobile. Stationed in place, she unleashed her attacks under the protection of Yinfeng, preventing the enemy from closing in. She believed that should she attempt to flee, her demise would be imminent. Recalling her last encounter with the likes of the sake master, she mused that it had not been so arduous then. Why did this battle feel so taxing? In stark contrast to Minghun's gritted teeth, Lu Yu displayed an air of ease. In truth, little time had passed since their last confrontation with the abyssal archers. Aside from acquiring a few new pieces of equipment, there had been no substantial change in their capabilities. The principal difference lay in their previous combat experience. They had thoroughly grasped Minghun's talents and skills and had conducted a post-battle analysis to devise countermeasures, thus making this encounter appear significantly more manageable. Now, Lu Yu found himself with the leisure to cast a glance at the dwarves congregated below the grand hall. His gaze was far from benevolent, for despite the elapsed time, these dwarves had yet to make a move, which irked him greatly. No one desires allies who stand idly by at critical moments. Under Lu Yu's scrutinizing gaze, the leader of the Gold Hammers, Jin Shui, felt a momentary hesitation. He did not wish to refrain from action. Yet witnessing the two factions entrenched in a stalemate left him uncertain about whom to assist. Should they join the fray now, they could instantaneously alter the course of the battle. He would have charged forth without hesitation. However, the current circumstances suggested both sides still possessed ample strength. Aiding one side could provoke the other into an explosive retaliation, leaving them vulnerable. Initially, he had contemplated waiting for a clearer situation before engaging. Yet Lu Yu's piercing glance suddenly made him realize that if they delayed until the outcome became evident, regardless of who triumphed, the dwarves would receive no favorable treatment. A choice had to be made. Gritting his teeth, Jin Shui declared that there was no time left for slow deliberation. Having previously leaned towards an alliance with the human race, hesitation was no longer an option, lest they find themselves gaining nothing from either side. With that, Jin Shui hefted his mighty hammer and leaped onto the rooftop. The other two gold hammers exchanged glances, recognizing a mix of reluctance, resignation, and acceptance in each other's eyes. Without further hesitation, they too ascended the rooftop, their hammers aimed directly at Ming-hun and Yin-feng. With the three gold hammers now in position, the remaining silver hammers had little choice but to join in the assault against the two goblins. The protective ink dots from Yin-feng surrounding the goblins made any attempt at close combat tantamount to seeking death. Fortunately, many dwarves possessed ranged skills, and the ethereal shadows of their mighty hammers descended upon the goblins, filling the air with the thunderous sound of their strikes. Witnessing the dwarves' actions, Lu Yu's expression softened slightly. These self-preserving individuals had finally shown a semblance of alliance, albeit belatedly. In the forthcoming treaty, they would need to compensate for this tardiness. While Lu Yu contemplated post-war alliances, the pressure on Yin-feng escalated with the dwarves' involvement. The moment he observed the dwarves wielding their hammers against them, he realized that their mission had already culminated in failure. Since the dwarves had taken action against them, regardless of the outcome, they would inevitably forge an alliance with the human race. The fact that they had not swiftly neutralized Qing Jiao and his companions from the outset signified their operational failure. The two second-tier abyssal professionals had been unable to promptly deal with these few humans, underscoring the decline of the four great races and the rise of humanity. Perhaps the human forces remained relatively weak at present, but it was essential to recognize that they had yet to even breach the abyss. Given time, the inevitability of a shift in power dynamics was apparent. For Yin-feng, the critical issue was no longer how to thwart the alliance between humans and dwarves, but rather how they could extricate themselves from this predicament. "Old woman, I'm done fighting. We must find a way to escape," he urged. "No. We cannot leave like this. There will be no explanation upon our return. We must join forces and eliminate Qingjiao. Go ahead if you wish. I intend to leave regardless." Yin-feng did not allow Ming-hun another moment to speak. After deflecting another attack from Sun Hanyu, the ink point that shielded the two suddenly quivered, and along with the ink that enveloped them, it shot outward at great speed. The unexpected assault caught everyone off guard, and the closest summoned beasts were struck by the ink, instantly dissolving into pools of blood. As the ink point surged forth, Lu Yu quickly reacted, summoning countless beasts to shield himself and Sun Hanyu, as well as others like Meng Jiangnan. In an instant, the ground beneath them flowed with blood, yet fortunately, Lu Yu's timely response ensured that no one was injured. Simultaneously, two blobs of ink enveloped Yin-feng and Ming-hun. In such a brief span, they could not afford to wait to disengage from combat to utilize their return scrolls. The abyssal wandering painter evidently possessed spatial abilities akin to their own. Just as the two were on the verge of escaping, a dagger materialized behind them. The icy glint of the pure-hearted youth severed the darkness encasing them, abruptly interrupting their spatial leap. Having exerted such effort, it was unacceptable to leave without securing a level. Chapter 376. The balance of power with their spatial leap interrupted. The figures of the two re-emerged. Yin-feng felt an ominous sensation. He wished to struggle further, but Lu Yu and the others would not grant him the opportunity. Before he could even apply the ink further, a cascade of skills had already enveloped them. The two figures transformed into beams of light, vanishing from sight. Lu Yu let out a gentle sigh. The inability to tame two formidable abyss professions, one offensive and one defensive, was indeed a source of lamentation. He pondered when he might possess the talent to subdue abyss professions. Could it be possible at level 80 for a second-class transfer? If so, it would be absolutely magnificent. Lu Yu glanced at his own level, 71. The gap to level 80 was less than 10 levels. It wouldn't be long before he could undergo his second-class transfer, at which point the first-tier main city would also be unlocked, providing access to a wealth of resources. Currently, the several second-tier main cities of the human race lacked suitable places for Lu Yu to level up. The opening of the first-tier main city was imminent. With the battle concluded, Lu Yu began to leisurely retract his excess summoned beasts, leaving only the winged bone dragon that continued to circle in the air. Sun Hanyu did not depart either. She stood atop the young dragon, surveying the dwarves below. Lu Yu deliberately chose not to engage with the dwarves nearby, retracting his summoned beasts at a leisurely pace. He now possessed the audacity of arrogance, which also served to express his dissatisfaction. Driving away the goblins was merely the first step. The more crucial matter lay ahead with the alliance negotiations with the dwarves. In truth, the dwarves' earlier actions did not quite align with Lu Yu's expectations. Their timing was disadvantageous for the forthcoming alliance discussions. Had the dwarves acted immediately, it would have indicated their urgent need and firm stance regarding the alliance, facilitating negotiations due to the alignment of mutual interests. Conversely, if they had waited until the last moment, the human race could leverage this to condemn the dwarves and gain additional advantages. However, the dwarves neither acted at the outset nor at the last minute. They chose to intervene during a stalemate. This approach, while still usable as a point of contention, undoubtedly diminished its effectiveness. Nonetheless, regardless of the circumstances, the human race would still maintain a dominant position in the negotiations. After nearly half an hour, Lu Yu finally managed to retract all his summoned beasts, leaving the group of dwarves, including the three golden hammers, waiting for an extended period. Hua and Tianxiao approached Lu Yu's side, I just logged off for a moment. The negotiation delegation from the Huan Bureau will arrive shortly. Liu nodded slightly. He had just been contemplating how to negotiate with this group of seasoned veterans. Now it appeared he need not burden himself with such thoughts. Let the professionals handle professional matters. The Huan Bureau placed great importance on this alliance, and the negotiators they dispatched would undoubtedly be of the highest caliber. Liu stepped forward to the 3 golden hammers and said, I apologize for the delay. There were too many summoned beasts to retract, and it took a bit of time. Thank you for your patience. Liu spoke with great politeness, yet there lingered not a hint of remorse in his tone. Rather, it was laced with palpable discontent. The assembly of dwarves, naturally, harbored skepticism towards Liu's assertions. Oh, you can summon your beast with a mere gesture. Yet it takes you this long to retract it? Do you truly believe our dwarven intelligence agency is inept? We possess more than a mere score of your battle videos. Each instance of summoning has always concluded with a simple wave of the hand. And now you claim otherwise? Internally, they may have been grumbling, but none displayed their thoughts outwardly. The leader, Goldhammer, wore a kind and gentle expression, abyss summoner visiting our god of Crafts Mountain. Encountering such circumstances is a failure on our part. Please, allow us to escort you to the hall to rest. Liu smirked. This old man was indeed cunning. He appeared to address the earlier discomfort, yet veiled it with the phrase failure to be courteous. Was the earlier situation a lack of courtesy? It was evidently the dwarves who wavered indecisively. While negotiations were to be entrusted to the representative delegation, one could not conclude this matter with the notion of discourtesy, allowing this old man to solidify his stance. Liu cast a glance at Goldhammer's ID, Zhou Qinfeng. Old Zhou, your words lack sincerity. Was that a failure to be courteous? It seems to me you sought to use the goblin's hands to eliminate us upon your mountain. If not for our own formidable strength, we might have already been reduced to corpses. Now, I find myself questioning your true intentions in summoning me here. Are you genuinely seeking an alliance? Or are you conspiring with the 4 great races to eradicate me, your most pressing threat? As Goldhammer attempted to obscure the truth, Liu was determined to unveil it. Even to exaggerate the matter, the recent demise of Minghun and Yinfeng would undoubtedly alter the alliance's grand strategy. Now, the focus shifts to how to procure greater benefits in the forthcoming negotiations. The more severe the situation is portrayed, the more demands can be made subsequently. You jest. Clear wine. We just collaborated to eliminate those 2 goblin pests. How could we possibly conspire with them? Indeed, when they first appeared, you remained passive. After I engaged with them, your intervention only came when the scales tipped in our favor. Had those goblins gained the upper hand, would Goldhammer have considered aiding them against me? It appears that your allegiance is dictated by who stands to win. The dwarves are quite adept at calculating their advantage. Liu's words rendered the assembly of dwarves speechless. Although their timing of intervention did not align perfectly with Liu's assertions, it was close enough. The crux of the matter lay in their intrinsic mentality of supporting whoever appeared victorious. Had Goldhammer not chosen to enter the fray early, they would have indeed waited until the final moment to act. Regrettably, embellishing a situation is never as valuable as providing assistance in times of need, particularly during such critical moments. The incident regarding the fine wine was unexpected, and we were not adequately prepared. However, rest assured, our dwarven clan possesses unwavering sincerity towards forming an alliance. This is not the appropriate venue for discourse. Let us retire indoors where we can sit down and converse at length. Zhou Qinfeng was keen on preventing any escalation of the situation, yet his words implicitly acknowledged the gravity of the matter. For the dwarves, allying with the human race is paramount, and they are willing to bear certain costs for this alliance. Liu nodded in agreement, leading his companions down from the rooftop and into the grand hall. He had secured a position of influence for the human race, and how negotiations would unfold now depended on the Huan Bureau. Chapter 377. The statue. As Liu and his companions traversed the path of Crafting God Mountain, they felt a sense of exhilaration. Representatives from the Huan Bureau had already arrived, and negotiations between the human race and the dwarven clan officially commenced. However, those proceedings were no longer Liu's concern. He had accomplished what was necessary and ensured that the negotiating delegation held sufficient leverage and power of speech. The resolution of interests would be left to them. Liu held considerable confidence in the human negotiating representatives, as they were not merely drawn from trivial nations. The wisdom accumulated over millennia by their ancestors was capable of surpassing any race. Yet, Liu was taken aback to find that he was not participating in the negotiations, and neither was the esteemed Zhou Jinxue of the dwarven clan. Zhou Jinxue walked alongside Liu, accompanying him on a leisurely stroll while recounting the achievements of the dwarven clan. This elder dwarf seemed indifferent to what his people might gain from the negotiations. His sole concern appeared to be Liu himself. It was evident to Liu that Zhou Jinxue displayed a remarkable humility in his presence, verging on subservience. Despite his efforts to mask this sentiment and present a congenial demeanor, his occasional averted gaze revealed his true emotions. Strangely, a thought suddenly emerged in Liu's mind. Those who possess greater knowledge tend to regard the world with profound reverence. The fearlessness of a young calf in the presence of a tiger is not a testament to its strength, but rather a reflection of its ignorance of the tiger's might. As one unveils more truths about the world, the realization of one's insignificance grows, leaving them grateful for the naivety of their youth that spared them from the harsh realities of society. Much like the majority of players from the human race, who still perceive the Abyss as a mere game, Lu Yu understood that when they finally grasped the truth of the Abyss, many would face utter despair. This sentiment was mirrored in Zhou Jinshui's expression, prompting Lu Yu to ponder more deeply on various matters. However, these reflections remained unspoken in Lu Yu's mind. He and Zhou Jinshui strolled leisurely, exchanging words and laughter, as if no unpleasant incident had transpired moments before. Soon, they arrived before several stone statues, where an array of offerings lay before them, some with incense still burning brightly. This location lacked a grand hall or any shelter from the elements. However, it appeared that the figures worshipped here were prominent figures from the dwarven race. Their likenesses were carved with remarkable detail, so lifelike that one might be led to believe they were actual beings standing there. The dwarves not only excelled in forging, but also in the art of sculpture, a craft few could rival. Zhou Jinshui approached a cluster of statues, paying his respects before introducing them to Lu Yu and the others. This is our ancestral figure, the progenitor of the dwarven race. Lu Yu nodded as he gazed at the foremost statue of the dwarf. He had encountered this ancestor before, not in person, but through his past interactions with the dwarves. The dwarven folk held great reverence for this ancestor, asserting that without him, their race would not exist. Though this statement invites scrutiny, Lu Yu pondered how a single progenitor could have spawned such a multitude of dwarves, given that their reproduction does not occur through division. They, too, require physical union to bring forth the fruits of love. However, such inquiries were not suitable to pose openly in the presence of the dwarves. This individual is the foundation of our forging techniques, Zhou Jinshui continued, gesturing to the dwarf on the left of the ancestor. He enabled our dwarven kin, who were at a disadvantage in many aspects, to discover their means of livelihood and perfected this craft. If the ancestral figure created the race, then this individual is the key to the dwarves' survival among the various races. He gestured to another statue. This is the forefather of our weapon forging, the most recent ancestor of our time. Unfortunately, during his prime, he followed a powerful mentor and vanished from the dwarven race, causing a significant loss in the inheritance of formidable weaponry. Zhou Jinshui reassured them, "Fear not, for we dwarves have also developed many impressive weapons in recent years, though they may not yet rival those of our ancestors." Lu Yu's expression shifted as he regarded the statue before him, struggling to suppress the urge to laugh. Yet, upon seeing the figure's likeness, he found it increasingly difficult to contain his amusement. Zhou Jinshui, observing Lu Yu's demeanor, felt a flicker of displeasure. The statues before them represented the most revered ancestors of the dwarven race, and he, as the highest-ranking elder among them, dared not exhibit any sign of disrespect. The forefather of weapon forging stood to the right of the ancestor, a figure of equal stature, second only to the progenitor himself. "Sake, though modest in appearance, is the most solemn place of my clan, and I ask you to show it due respect." Zhou Jinshui's voice took on a stern tone, and the innocent youth and his companions, who had been lingering behind, could not help but approach to investigate. However, upon encountering the third statue, they all displayed expressions of bewilderment. "Brother, isn't this that old fellow? Duan Shuqing, the old man Duan." The others, except for Sun Hanyu's projection, nodded in agreement. They had parted ways with the old man less than 24 hours ago, and Chun Zhu was still learning the craft of weapon making from him. To suddenly find his statue here was quite a shock. Moreover, before the statue, several incense sticks were burning. Was this a wish for the old man's swift demise? The innocent youth's remark momentarily stunned Zhou Jinshui. "You are acquainted with Master Duan of my clan?" Before anyone else could respond, Lu Yu spoke up first. "I had seen Master Duan's statue on a map earlier, and it just came to mind, causing me to lose my composure." Hearing Lu Yu's explanation, the group discreetly fell silent. Their elder brother had set the tone for the situation, and it was wise for them to refrain from further comments. They were all astute individuals. Following their brother's lead was undoubtedly the correct path. Zhou Jinshui's expression softened somewhat upon hearing Lu Yu's clarification. However, after the earlier incident, he did not wish to linger with them in the most sacred place of the dwarves, and thus he led Lu Yu and the others back to the summit of the God of Craftsman Mountain. Negotiations were still ongoing, and it was expected that they would last for 3 days and nights without conclusion. This involved comprehensive cooperation between two races, with each party eager to secure greater benefits, inevitably leading to disputes. Even matters concerning the Steel City might be brought to the forefront during discussions. However, the human side would naturally deny any involvement. After all, the dwarves lacked evidence, and if it were presented, it would implicate the goblin tribe. Zhou Jinshui escorted the group to a guest room for rest before taking his leave. Sun Hanyu's projection approached Lu Yu, expressing her intention to return. As the final boss of a malevolent map, her absence would leave it unguarded, allowing anyone to enter or exit at will. Lu Yu, unaware of the weight of this responsibility, recognized that the map had once been frequented by the underworld tribe and could not remain in an open state for long. Nonetheless, he was now deeply indebted to Sun Hanyu's projection and could only seek an opportunity in the future to repay this half-mentor. Lying on the bed in the guest room, Lu Yu recalled the statue of Duan Shuqing he had seen earlier, and a smile crept upon his lips. Chapter 378. The Nature Tribe. While others may still be filled with doubt, Lu Yu, possessing an abundance of information, had pieced together the situation with considerable accuracy. Zhou Jinshui's mention of the powerful figure whom Duan Shuqing followed likely referred to Sun Tianhua. More specifically, it was probably Sun Tianhua after his second transformation. This was the conclusion Lu Yu reached upon viewing the statue. With the exception of a select few races, none possess lifespans that extend for centuries. Even the mightiest of humanity is limited to a mere century or so. Yet, Duan Shuqing, a figure from centuries past, has appeared before Lu Yu and his companions. The ability to sustain one's existence for such an extended period is beyond the capabilities of any race's treasures. The only means for an individual to endure until now is through subjugation by a summoner, remaining within the realm of summoning. Much like the little golden crow residing in Lu Yu's summoning space, where its sinister poison ceases to manifest. For creatures of summoning, existing within that space equates to a state of stasis relative to the outside world. Sun Tianhua has undoubtedly perished. But what of the trial grounds of the Sun family that seemed lost? Upon reflection, it may not have been lost at all. Perhaps the third transition of Sun Tianhua has transported it elsewhere. Now, for reasons unknown, Duan Shuqing has vacated the trial grounds. No wonder Duan Shuqing proclaimed that his ideal disciple is none other than himself. Lu Yu suddenly grasped this notion, a smile breaking across his face. That old man Sun Tianhua is certainly no fool. While Lu Yu is scheming, Sun Tianhua is undoubtedly plotting as well. However, their ultimate objectives should align. With this thought, Lu Yu shifted into a more comfortable position, feeling a renewed sense of confidence within. Creaking, the door was gently pushed open. Lu Yu glanced towards the entrance to see the pure-hearted youth and two young ladies, Jiang Nan and another. Upon noticing Lu Yu's gaze, they paused in surprise. Big brother. We thought you were asleep. You thought I was asleep? What were you sneaking in for then? Do you require something from me? Big brother. Jiang Nan and I wish to practice leveling up with you. Surely, we can gain experience by hunting wild monsters among the dwarves? Leveling up? Now that is an excellent idea. The negotiations were not yet concluded, and as a member of the delegation, Lu Yu could not return to humanity prematurely. Taking advantage of these days to level up would indeed be a prudent choice. Unlike the unactivated primary city of humanity, the Forge Master Mountain of the dwarves practically serves as their primary city. The resources for wild monsters here are undoubtedly plentiful, making leveling up here far more efficient than returning to humanity. Jiangnan and I have pinpointed a wicked map on the coordinates that appears to be of a high level, sufficient for us to grind for a while. The map provided by Wu Zongyi, along with the map from Sun Hanyu's projection, essentially covers the most significant areas of the dwarven race. While Lu Yu pondered various matters, the two young ladies busied themselves with deliberations on where to level up. The pure-hearted youth spoke, sharing a specific coordinate address. This one, the wicked map of the Nature Tribe. Previously, I had never heard of this race. However, the map indicates a level of approximately 80, which should suit our needs quite well, particularly for our leader. Ruming Jiangnan quietly added that both she and the innocent youth were still below level 50, making it challenging to navigate an 80-level map. Yet, with the addition of the 70-level Lu Yu, the situation would be different. The Nature Tribe, in essence, comprises a collective of plants. Those of lower levels are referred to as flora, while the higher-level beings proudly identify themselves as nature. The innocent youth scoffed, remarking on the immobility of these entities and their pretentious nomenclature. Clearly, upon hearing Lu Yu's explanation of the Nature Tribe, the illusion surrounding this race in her mind dissipated. While this tribe may indeed be suitable for leveling up at our current stage, we shall refrain from venturing into that malevolent territory. So, where shall we go? Let us proceed directly to their homeland. Lu Yu felt quite buoyant. Ever since acquiring the Frostbone Dragon, his endeavors had been remarkably smooth. The mention of the Nature Tribe by the innocent youth reminded him of the grand white flower that Sun Tianhua had once spoken of. Previously, Sun Tianhua had urged Lu Yu to capture that flower, rumored to possess the ability to heal the phantom venom. However, due to the absence of a corresponding malevolent map in the secondary main city, this task had been temporarily shelved, with various obligations competing for his attention. And with Sun Tianhua now absent, the present moment presented an opportune time to address this matter, allowing the little golden crow to recover promptly. Naturally, the innocent youth and Ruming Jiangnan wholeheartedly supported Lu Yu's proposal. Lu Yu raised his hand to summon the little abyss. Let us return home. Specifically to that valley. He provided the coordinates of the Sun family's little realm, intending to fetch Sun Tianhua, as only he knew the precise location of the flower. Master, the coordinates you provided are not directly reachable. However, I can transport you to the vicinity, the little abyss conveyed. Hearing this information, Lu Yu couldn't help but express his admiration for the old man. This small realm he had created was indeed extraordinary, even beyond the reach of the little abyss. Very well, take us to the nearby area. Lu Yu was quite familiar with the location, akin to returning home. After the little abyss had devoured enough goblins, it opened its maw, unveiling a passageway to the human realm. One by one, Lu Yu and his companions stepped through. Crossing the abyss, The trio arrived at a gorge that Lu Yu knew quite well. The remnants of the previous battle had vanished, and the golden swallowing beast, Qian Qian, stood sentinel outside the little realm, motionless. Chapter 379. Pai Pai. The familiar gorge came into view for Lu Yu. He had visited this place more than once or twice. It had been over half a month since his last battle with the son of the underworld. The outside of the gorge still bore the scars of devastation. Yet Qian Qian, guarding the little realm, had almost completely recovered. The exit of the small abyss closed behind the three of them, and immediately, a long, serpentine tongue shot towards Lu Yu. Just before the tongue made contact with Lu Yu's body, it abruptly halted, gently licking his face. The sticky sensation left Lu Yu feeling somewhat uncomfortable. However, this also signified the Golden Devourer's acknowledgement of him. Lu Yu stepped forward and embraced the creature lightly. With a grand gesture, a mountain of gold coins appeared before the Golden Devourer. In terms of quantity, there were easily tens of millions of coins. Over this extended period, even excluding the bone worms, Lu Yu had slain over 1 million wild monsters and players. With the enhancement of the emotionless ring's crazy money-sucking effect, the gold in Lu Yu's backpack surpassed 1 billion. He withdrew half to restore the creature's form effortlessly. Upon seeing such a vast amount of gold, the Golden Devourer couldn't contain its excitement and bounced with glee, causing the entire valley to tremble. Fortunately, the pure-hearted youth and dreamy Jiang had been with Lu Yu for quite some time and were already accustomed to such spectacles. A mere third-tier guardian beast was hardly a cause for alarm. They had even encountered fourth-tier golden crows before. As Lu Yu prepared to enter the small realm, the Golden Devourer naturally did not obstruct him. It eagerly coiled its tongue around piles of gold coins, drawing them into its mouth, while shifting its rear to clear a path for Lu Yu and the others. The three entered the small realm in succession. Compared to before, the surroundings appeared quite dim. Without the illumination of the little golden crow, the small realm would have been pitch dark. However, it was now filled with luminescent stones, allowing for a faint view of the landscape. Various rare and exotic creatures frolicked on the grass, unafraid of Lu Yu's presence. In fact, a few bold ones approached, rubbing against the three companions. These young creatures had not yet reached maturity, their diminutive forms exuding cuteness. Lu Yu was unfamiliar with their names, but recognized their species, beginning to introduce them to the two young ladies one by one. Suddenly, dreamy Jiangnan picked up a creature resembling a Totoro and asked, "Leader, this one is so adorable. What is its name?" "Its name is Pippi. It is quite adept in electrical attributes and possesses a commendable trait," replied Sun Hanyu, who approached from the direction of the trial grounds. She appeared somewhat fatigued, but upon seeing Lu Yu and the others, her spirit rejuvenated instantly. Lu Yu was taken aback at the sight of Sun Hanyu, quickly realizing why he hadn't seen the old man, Sun Tianhua, for so long. "Instructor, what are you doing here?" "This is my home. Is it not normal for me to be here?" "But what brings you here?" Lu Yu found himself momentarily speechless. He had come in search of Sun Tianhua, yet it seemed his instructor was still unaware that the old man had emerged from the trial grounds. The elderly gentleman did not take the initiative to meet his great-great-great-great-granddaughter, and Lu Yu felt somewhat hesitant to voice his thoughts. "Oh, I have been looking after these two young ladies from my faction, yet I have been unable to find a suitable pet for them, which is why I thought to come to my mentor to see if there might be any mutual affinity." Without hesitation, Lu Yu pushed the two young ladies forward. Now, revealing the old man was not a concern for Lu Yu. His only worry was how to explain the situation to his mentor. Thus, for the sake of his own safety, he had no choice but to put the two young ladies in a somewhat awkward position. Upon hearing Lu Yu's words, the pure-hearted youth and Rumeng Jiangnan were momentarily taken aback. After a brief silence, they stammered, "B-brother said you have many formidable exotic beasts, so he brought us here." The imposing aura of Sun Hanyu was not something an ordinary young girl could withstand. Even the self-proclaimed master of words, the pure-hearted youth, found himself at a loss for words. Upon hearing Lu Yu's explanation, Sun Hanyu did not press the matter further. Instead, she picked up Pai Pai and returned it to Rumeng Jiangnan's embrace. "This little fellow is so attached to you. It surely wishes to accompany you into the outside world. While I maintain a safe environment here, remaining in this confined space can be quite dull. Why not take it to experience the wonders of the world beyond?" "Really? Thank you, City Lord Sun." Rumeng Jiangnan's excitement was unrestrained as she solemnly bowed to Sun Hanyu, then began to affectionately stroke Pai Pai. The little creature nestled against Rumeng Jiangnan's chest, appearing utterly content. Witnessing this scene, Lu Yu could not help but wear a puzzled expression. What exactly was this little creature enjoying? Rest assured, she is a female. Sun Hanyu perceptively discerned Lu Yu's thoughts. Oh, if she is a female, then there is no cause for concern. Rumeng Jiangnan placed Pai Pai on the ground, and a magical array illuminated beneath the creature. Without any resistance, Pai Pai allowed Rumeng Jiangnan to claim her. In an instant, the previously fist-sized Pai Pai rapidly expanded, soon reaching the size of a watermelon. What is happening? As I mentioned earlier, this little creature possesses a rather peculiar talent. Her level can align with that of her master, meaning you will not need to share experience points while leveling up. In the blink of an eye, Pai Pai had grown dozens of levels. Yet she retained her adorably plump appearance. She swiftly climbed onto Ru Meng Jiangnan's left shoulder, then to her right, and finally leaped atop her head, settling down comfortably. At that moment, Lu Yu suddenly felt that this pair of human and beast complemented each other perfectly, both embodying a charming allure. And you? Have you set your sights on any particular creature? Lu Yu inquired, glancing at the pure-hearted youth. Earlier, he had shielded the two young ladies together. Now that Ru Meng Jiangnan had seemingly formed a genuine bond, it was only fair that the pure-hearted youth receive his due attention as well. The pure-hearted youth looked at Lu Yu, then at Sun Hanyu, and timidly asked, may I have the gold-swallowing beast at the entrance? WTM. Lu Yu now harbors an impulse to strike this young girl with a resounding slap. How audacious you are. I long for that golden beast. Yet I have not dared to voice my desire. Sun Hanyu, momentarily at a loss for words, eventually remarked, if you can take responsibility for its sustenance, then perhaps it could be arranged. Sustenance? That would entail a staggering sum of 1 million gold coins a day. The naive youth promptly fell silent. She was not Lu Yu, who could effortlessly procure several million gold coins. To sustain the golden beast would require selling herself short. Very well. I must return to the City of Unity now. If you have any suitable little creatures, you may take them along, Sun Hanyu stated, casting a glance at Lu Yu, confident that her disciple would dutifully tend to every small creature here. Chapter 380. Paving the way, Sun Hanyu activated the return scroll, and in a flash of light, she vanished. Lu Yu, who had been brimming with joy just moments ago, became suddenly pensive. He had just observed that Sun Hanyu had reached level 105, indicating that his mentor had indeed ventured to another realm to level up. Despite her earlier spirited demeanor in front of Lu Yu and his companions, traces of profound fatigue and helplessness were evident in her tone. Her urgency to return to the City of Unity likely stemmed from a desire for rest. This elicited a deep sigh from Lu Yu. His mentor was indeed a source of constant worry. He had already admonished her, yet she remained obstinate. Gaining 5 levels in a single day was undoubtedly a challenge against formidable bosses from other realms, and should she ever find herself in peril, he could only lament. Sun Hanyu was not one to be coddled. Her establishment of Unity Village and its subsequent transformation into Unity City attested to her strength. Though she appeared gentle in his presence, to others, she was undoubtedly a powerful woman. All he could do was strive to grow stronger and summon formidable beasts to protect her. Do you truly not want a pet? Lu Yu inquired of the naive youth. I haven't yet decided on the type I desire, she replied. Very well, once you've made your decision, let me know, and I shall see if I can procure it for you, Lu Yu responded, making his way toward the trial grounds. Now that Sun Hanyu had returned, the only place left for old Sun to hide was the trial grounds. Approaching the dark cave, Lu Yu called out, Hey, come out. Your little granddaughter has left. There was no response from within the cave. Hurry out. If you don't, I shall take my leave as well. As he uttered these words, the light at the cave's entrance flickered, and Sun Tianhua cautiously revealed half of his head. Upon confirming that Sun Hanyu was indeed absent, he exhaled in relief and swaggered out, exclaiming, You nearly frightened me to death. I almost got discovered by her. Thankfully, I hid just in time. Sun Tianhua wiped the sweat from his brow and inquired, Young man, what brings you here? Of course, I am here to find you. Come. Let us journey to the Nature Clan together. What purpose do we have there? Wait, has the primary main city opened? Not yet. But I possess a means to get there. You shall guide me as we seek out the boss you mentioned. Sun Tianhua scrutinized Lu Yu from head to toe, exclaiming, Well, your confidence speaks volumes. It appears your strength has considerably increased during this time. Although Sun Tianhua discerned that Lu Yu had yet to break through to the second tier, the prowess of an abyss summoner is never solely determined by level. Lu Yu smiled faintly, gesturing with one hand as a frostbone dragon, spanning 100 meters, materialized before them. Sun Tianhua's pupils dilated in astonishment. He glanced between the bone dragon and Lu Yu, finally uttering 2 words, Impressive. No wonder you exhibit such bravado now. A third-tier bone dragon ensures your safety against all but the 4 major races and certain exceptional clans. The only regret is that it possesses an ice attribute. Had it been fire, a visit to the Nature Clan would have been a straightforward endeavor. Lu Yu remained silent, gently waving his staff, conjuring flames that erupted spontaneously. Is that Golden Crow fire? What have you done to my Golden Crow? What do you mean, what have I done? I merely encountered the mother of the little Golden Crow recently. She gifted me this staff and the divine fire skill. Sun Tianhua opened his mouth, only to swallow back the profanities that nearly escaped. Your luck is truly remarkable. Let us prepare to depart. So soon? Aren't you going to get ready? What is there to prepare? With your divine fire, traversing the Nature Clan will be a mere stroll. Seeing Sun Tianhua's unwavering confidence, Lu Yu felt a twinge of apprehension. This old man had never been particularly reliable. While the Nature Clan was indeed the first to face annihilation, that was a result of collective efforts from other races. Relying solely on a divine fire skill and a third-tier frostbone dragon to storm into their territory seemed unwise. Rest assured, do you have any doubts about my words? It is precisely your words that cause my unease. Lu Yu couldn't help but retort. Sun Tianhua sighed in exasperation, urging, We should hasten and retrieve that item, so we can cure the Golden Crow of the nether poison swiftly. If you doubt me, what do you think we can prepare now? It does seem there is little we can prepare. Lu Yu shot Sun Tianhua a glance, and then summoned the little abyss. What is this? Confusion etched across Sun Tianhua's face. He had never witnessed the appearance after the egg hatched. Lu Yu patiently explained, also providing some insight to the innocent youth and the dreamlike Jiangnan. Upon learning that this dark and unfathomable entity was akin to the abyss, the three were taken aback in astonishment. Little did they expect that the egg, upon hatching, would reveal such a creature. Sun Tianhua attempted to reach out and touch the small abyss, but it deftly evaded his hand. It cowered before Lu Yu. For Lu Yu held dominion over its very existence. Yet, in the presence of others, it was the omnipotent lord of the abyss. Had it not been for the fear of annihilation at Lu Yu's hands, it would have eagerly devoured the old man's hand the moment he reached out. By the way, old son, from where did you acquire that egg? The ability to hatch a small abyss from an egg surely hinted at its extraordinary origins. As for the egg, I scarcely recall. It has been several centuries. How could an old man like me remember such details? Sun Tianhua's words were somewhat ambiguous, and Lu Yu chose not to press further. He found it hard to believe that this old man could forget such a significant matter. His silence undoubtedly bore its own reasons. In truth, Lu Yu could surmise that the egg was likely connected to Sun Tianhua's transformation after the second transition. Previously, he had not regarded the emergence of the small abyss as peculiar, but after witnessing Duan Shuchen's statue atop the artisan god mountain, Lu Yu began to sense a subtle shift. Many of the events he encountered seemed to be orchestrated by that old man. Without a doubt, Sun Tianhua had accomplished much in his lifetime. Chapter 381. Jumping machine. Upon traversing the mouth of the abyss, they entered a lush world. This teleportation was entirely random. And as the guide summoned by Lu Yu, Sun Tianhua was unaware of the specific coordinates of the white flower he mentioned. In his own words, after several centuries, how could an old man possibly remember a string of numbers? Thus, the group had no choice but to remain in this location. Hoping to trigger a memory from the old man, Lu Yu harbored little hope for this endeavor. Fortunately, time was on their side, and the flora would not flee. They would eventually find it. This place was a veritable sanctuary of fresh air. The pure-hearted youth could not help but express his sincere admiration. The air felt especially invigorating. Do not be complacent. We merely happen to be in a spot devoid of the miasmic forest. Lu Yu retracted the small abyss and began to survey his surroundings. Although the area was densely vegetated, not a single sentient plant was in sight. Indeed, there were no wild creatures. They had no opportunity to inquire for directions. Lu Yu summoned the frostbone dragon. Let us hasten to explore the vicinity and seek out the natural inhabitants who may guide us. The notion of seeking directions from the natural inhabitants might seem humorous in other contexts. In any locale, one would typically have a grasp of their neighboring distributions. How could they not know the way? However, when it comes to the flora of the target area, this statement held no fallacy. For those plants that had been rooted in the soil for eons, any entity capable of navigating the terrain would undoubtedly be a formidable force to be reckoned with. Several individuals followed Lu Yu, ascending the back of the frostbone dragon. Sun Tianhua felt an unsettling apprehension. The last time he had ridden a dragon was centuries ago, and now, unexpectedly returning to this ancient practice, he found himself somewhat ill at ease. The dragon's back was littered with skeletal structures, leaving little room for stable footing. The bone dragon glanced back, casting a disdainful look at Sun Tianhua, who was sprawled upon its back, before unfurling its wings and soaring into the sky. Sun Tianhua clung tightly to a bony protrusion, shutting his eyes in fear of making any unnecessary movements. It was only when Lu Yu patted his shoulder that Sun Tianhua dared to open his eyes. Old fellow, your courage is rather lacking. Once you were a summoner of the abyss, and now you tremble at the thought of riding a dragon? Lu Yu teased. Ah, young one. You simply do not comprehend the might of the dragon race. One day, when you arrive at the dragon's nest, you will understand what it means to feel reverence. Lu Yu shrugged nonchalantly. By then, I shall have tamed them all. Sun Tianhua was momentarily speechless, suddenly recalling that Lu Yu was unlike himself. There were no limits to his ability to tame beings of other races. Perhaps this lad could indeed achieve the extraordinary feat of capturing dragons. The thought of a formidable dragon cavalry emerging was tantalizing. Young one, when that day comes, do remember to spare me a dragon to ride. Sun Tianhua rubbed his hands together, excitement bubbling within him. With your timid nature, if I were to give you a dragon, you might end up nurturing it into a Komodo dragon. Nonsense. I am not timid. Sun Tianhua retorted, releasing his grip on the bone and attempting to stand upright. At that moment, the frost dragon suddenly veered to the side, causing Sun Tianhua to slip and nearly tumble off its back. He quickly grasped the dragon's bones again, cold sweat trickling down the wrinkles of his face. You scoundrel, was that intentional? Sun Tianhua exclaimed in frustration. Had he truly fallen, the height would likely have been fatal. Yet after his outburst, Lu Yu remained silent. Summoning his courage, he opened his eyes, only to realize that Lu Yu and the others were no longer standing steadily on the dragon's back. They too had clung to a bone, their expressions grave as they gazed down at the forest below. Sun Tianhua peered down, and a chill ran down his spine. Was this truly a forest? Below, an entanglement of branches and vines writhed ominously, The dragon's abrupt maneuver had been a desperate attempt to evade the sweeping strike of a vine. Lu Yu gazed down at the countless tendrils, inhaling sharply. Fortuitously, they had chosen to ascend. Had they traversed the forest on foot, they would likely have become mere sustenance for this wild creature. The entire forest was, in fact, a single monstrous entity. The vine creatures Lu Yu had once subdued were but a minuscule patch of thorns in comparison. Moments ago, while below, I could not perceive the information regarding this creature. However, upon ascending, I beheld its full form, and at last, an information panel materialized. Master of Nature, level 120 race, plant. A glance at the level of this Master of Nature compelled Lu Yu to decisively refrain from examining its attributes. A level 120 wild creature would undoubtedly present a panel filled with question marks. There was no point in pursuing it further. It was not worth the effort. What are you waiting for? Earn it. Sun Tianhua had evidently noted the level of the Master of Nature as well. A third transformation nature entity would yield no advantage, even if the Frostbone Dragon were to charge down aggressively. Though the Bone Dragon possessed formidable strength, its size was a significant drawback. 100-meter-long body, while colossal elsewhere, appeared as but a mere speck in this realm. Should it dare to descend, it would be swiftly reduced to bone dust, transformed into mere sustenance. Lu Yu had already raised his staff, yet, to his embarrassment, he discovered that in order to evade the branches and vines below, the Frostbone Dragon had ascended to a considerable height. From here, the Master of Nature lay beyond his attack range. Sun Tianhua's persistent urging only added to Lu Yu's vexation. Brother, let us disengage. The innocent youth quickly discerned the predicament Lu Yu faced. Unable to unleash his skills, lowering the dragon's altitude would only result in entanglement with the vines. The options were clear. Either swiftly vacate this forest or confront the Master of Nature head-on. Upon hearing the innocent youth's suggestion, Lu Yu instantly grasped the strategy. The innocent youth could lead them in stealth. However, the Bone Dragon's substantial size rendered it incapable of entering stealth mode alongside them. By recalling the Bone Dragon, they could all assume stealth, rendering them undetectable to the vines below, thus avoiding confrontation. They could subsequently incinerate the Master of Nature with divine fire, ensuring a swift resolution. All right, that is the plan. Jiangnan, be mindful of your health. Do not let us perish. Understood, big brother. Jiangnan replied obediently. With her healing prowess, even if the King of Hell himself called upon her, she would consider her response. What does disengaging mean? What sudden decision have you made? It seems you have reached a significant conclusion. Sun Tianhua continued to chatter. Lu Yu surmised that the old man, having gone half a month without conversation, was bursting to interject at every opportunity. It could also be that upon seeing two beautiful women, he was eager to display himself. Without granting the old man further time for his ramblings, Lu Yu promptly recalled him and the Bone Dragon to the summoning space. Instantly, the world fell silent. Old fellow, you seem to have forgotten that aside from my direct connection to your great-great-great-granddaughter, we share a direct relationship as well. With the Bone Dragon's disappearance, the three individuals atop its back commenced a graceful descent. Countless branches and vines below surged forth like tentacles, reaching towards them. However, in the next moment, they lost their target. The stealth of the innocent youth concealed the traces of the three, rendering Lu Yu and his companions completely undetectable. Leaping from a height of 100 meters, the exhilaration they experienced eclipsed that of bungee jumping or skydiving. Unlike parachuting, where one is tethered to a parachute, the three of them were devoid of any deceleration measures. Lu Yu landed first, witnessing his health points vanish in an instant, with no opportunity for even a momentary healing. In the next instant, a radiant white light enveloped him, and Lu Yu was resurrected fully restored. Beside him, the innocent youth also revived in a similar fashion. In midair, only the girl, Ruming Jiangnan, was still descending. Lu Yu suddenly realized that this young girl possessed the ability to resurrect others, but what about herself? Before this thought could fully form in his mind, Ruming Jiangnan crashed heavily to the ground. In the following moment, she too was resurrected in full health. How did you manage that? Lu Yu asked, filled with confusion, unaware that Ruming Jiangnan had a self-resurrection skill. As she rose from the ground and dusted off her clothes, she produced several vials of potion from her backpack. These are the resurrection potions I developed based on my skills during my last session with the Minter. Lu Yu exclaimed. Then why didn't you give us some before jumping? Who could have known that you would act so swiftly? I had just agreed. And before I could retrieve the potions, the Bone Dragon was already summoned by you. Lu Yu felt an awkward flush wash over him. He had been too preoccupied with silencing Sun Tianhua to notice Ruming Jiangnan's actions of retrieving the potions. Chapter 382. The Great Fire. After acquiring several newly formulated potions from Ruming Jiangnan, Lu Yu recalled the urgent task at hand. The forest around them had returned to a serene state, as if the earlier chaotic dance of vines had never occurred. Lu Yu was not deceived by this facade. He unleashed his divine fire skill, creating an impenetrable wall of flames surrounding the three of them. In an instant, the plants engulfed by the divine fire were consumed by the inferno, their branches writhing in agony. Lu Yu showed no mercy. This Master of Nature had sought to capture them along with the Bone Dragon. With a single gesture, he summoned a multitude of fire attribute mages. Recently, These fire mages had played a crucial role in their encounters. Upon their emergence, they harnessed the divine fire skill to release fireballs and a blazing inferno in all directions. The phrase setting fire to the mountain and digging through the prison was clearly inapplicable to the current situation. The roaring flames spread outward from Lu Yu, and the once menacing branches wilted in an instant. The master of nature, though eager to suppress the flames, lacked the fear of fire, skill, and was equally devoid of any fire resistance abilities. If the raging fire were to spread unchecked, even a being of level 120 would inevitably perish in its relentless grasp. Countless branches and vines lay upon the sea of flames, transforming the fierce blaze into a mere billow of thick smoke. However, this approach could only temporarily extinguish the flames conjured by the fire mage, rendering them powerless against Lu Yu's divine fire. While the flames could be doused